The end of the world. Materials consumed by women will be returned 10,000-fold. Hey, fanfic family. So glad to see you here again to continue this incredible adventure. As always, kindly remember, this story is 100% fiction, so don't go looking for dimensional portals in your closet. All rights to this fantastic novel belong to the original author. We're just your humble narrators of epic tales. Are you enjoying the fanfic? Show it by subscribing to our YouTube channel and dropping us a like. And if you're impatient for more exclusive content, our Patreon is your happy place. Chapter 101 6-star ability, Light of the Soul. Jiang Fan glanced at the charming woman intently. This woman's appearance is actually above average, but she has an enchanting feeling in her bones even in the space where supplies were not abundant. She didn't know where she got the cosmetics, smeared on eyeshadow and lipstick. The clothes are also very cool. The toenails are painted red, and there is a gold anklet too on the ankle from top to bottom. There is a feeling of coquettishness. The most important thing is that her will bubble is so strong that she is the strongest besides Jiang Fan himself. Jiang Fan recalled what the will bubble looked like at different will values when his will improved, and he roughly estimated that this woman's will value was between 20 and 23. Hulei age 29. Quality. 8.5 points, charming and charming, female ethics. 8.5 points, extremely hates men, comprehensive score. 8.5 points, Ling. It meets the system requirements. Does a score of 8.5 also meet the requirements? Jiang Fan narrowed his eyes. Willpower is very strange. Jiang Fan didn't want to risk accepting such a woman, especially in this base, where there are superpowers everywhere. There is really no need to take risks for a beautiful woman. Moreover, this woman hates men, so taking her away would be a big problem. Jiang Fan didn't change at all on the surface and turned around to leave. However, the moment he turned around, he keenly noticed through perception that Hulei's whole body was shaking. Jiang Fan's vigilance instantly rose to the highest level. She found me. Moreover, she must have some kind of perception ability. She found out that I am very powerful, so she was so scared. This woman must die? A sharp light flashed in Jiang Fan's eyes. He would never let go of someone who detects his ability, no matter male or female. Jiang Fan walked into Hulei's blind spot and immediately sank into the ground and rushed towards Hulei quickly. Hulei breathed a sigh of relief and wiped away the sweat. Mad? How can this stinky man be so strong? I'm scared to death, she thought quickly and decided to inform the guards outside about the incident and ask them to call the police. She didn't want to confront such a dangerous enemy, so she could hide as far away as possible and just leave the enemy to those brainless fools. Huh? Where's the door? Hulei suddenly discovered that the location of the door turned into a white wall. Hulei was confused for a while. What happened? Am I too sleepy and confused? She turned to look at the other wall, then I discovered to my horror that the four walls were walls. The door is missing. The windows are gone too. What the hell? Hulei was so frightened that her whole body trembled. Wrong. That person is also a consciousness type person. I've been cheated. Hulei reacted immediately. Help. As soon as she screamed, a blue portal appeared strangely under her feet, and she immediately fell into it at the same time. A big hand grabbed her ankle and pulled her into the portal. The portal closed immediately. Hulei found herself in a strange independent space, and the real world outside was distorted, and outside this space, there is nothingness and darkness. What the hell is this place? Hulei was completely stunned when she saw the soldier standing in front of her again. She screamed out in horror. Ah! Snapped. Jiang Fan was not polite and slapped her screams back. Hulei covered her mouth and cried, "Brother, don't kill me. You can do whatever you want. I believe you." Jiang Fan sneered and was about to speak when he suddenly felt his mental bubble shaking violently, as if he had been attacked by some invisible attack. However, the strength was relatively small, and Jiang Fan only felt slightly dizzy for a second. Hulei's nose bled for no apparent reason, and she collapsed to the ground. She looked at Jiang Fan in disbelief. You? How come your spirit is so strong? Only then did Jiang Fan realize that he had almost been tricked by this woman. Suddenly his face turned cold and he slapped her unconscious. I want to see what you are capable of. Half an hour later, Jiang Fan expressionlessly broke Hulei's neck and threw the body into the portable space. He didn't dare to keep this woman by his side. In addition, Hulei knew her own abilities and could not return her to the base. Then the only option is to kill. Jiang Fan looked at the system prompt. Ling. 1 day ago, Hulei consumed 1 steamed bun and got 1,100 buns back. It has been put into the portable space. Ling. 1 day ago, Hulei consumed a bag of compressed biscuits and returned 1,100 bags. It has been put into the carry-on space. Ling. 1 day ago, Hule consumed a bottle of red wine and returned 1,100 bottles. It has been put into the portable space. Ling. 2 days ago, Hule consumed 3 ham sausages and returned 3,300 ham sausages. It has been put into the carry-on space. Ling. 18 days ago, Hule consumed an enlightenment fruit, the light of the soul, and returned 1,100. It has been put into the portable space. Light of the soul, it is indeed a will-type ability. Jiang Fan's eyes lit up and he immediately took out a soul light fruit and ate it immediately afterwards. He felt his vision bright. No, it's not that his vision is brighter, it's just an illusion that makes him seem to be able to see more things. Jiang Fan also discovered that even the distortion he felt when seeing the real world from subspace was reduced a lot and became clearer. He immediately checks the ability information, light of the mind. 6 stars, you can see the number of the target's abilities, and have a certain chance to roughly perceive the effects of the abilities. The success rate depends on the will gap between you and the opponent. You can send out mental shocks, attack the opponent's consciousness, and attack. The effect depends on the will gap between you and the other party. If the other party's will is higher than yours, you will suffer backlash. Will plus 15. Jiang Fan was overjoyed. Light of the soul. Jiang Fan felt his energy draining rapidly. He immediately looked outside and saw that the girls were sleeping in their respective rooms. Jiang Fan saw that different shapes of light groups appeared in different parts of each woman's body. Tang Zhao has 3 light groups on her body, corresponding to her 3 abilities. The ball of light on the eyes is about perception. There are 2 light groups below the chest at the heart position, which should represent virtualization and physical strengthening. Bian has 2 light groups among them. The light clusters on the eyes are very similar to Tang Zhao's, but slightly smaller. They should be perception, because hers is 1-star perception, and Tang Zhao's perception has been raised to 2 stars. There is also a strange light group on Bian's chest, which is big and bright, and should represent her 7-star teleportation. The stupid beauty Bizenji has only 1 light group on her body, which is also in her eyes, which is perception. Jiang Fan has given each woman at least 1 perception fruit, which can help them distinguish between friends and foes. Jiang Fan carefully identified the light groups with different abilities and silently remembered them in his heart. Gu Lianing has a unique ability. The light ball, which should be her condensed water. Su Menqian has a unique ability, light group, which is a link of will in the brain. Su Jin also has a unique ability, the light group, which is also on the chest and is used for healing. What's strange is that Jiang Fan can't see his own power light group, so the light of his soul is ineffective on him. Jiang Fan was extremely satisfied with this ability. You will be able to play a huge role when facing other supernatural beings and animals and plants with supernatural powers, coupled with an additional 15 points of will. The panel attributes have become comprehensive physical fitness. 91. Average of 10 for ordinary adults. Will. 75. Average 10 for ordinary adults. The dual attributes are getting closer and closer to 100. I wonder if there are any special changes when the attributes are raised to 100. Jiang Fan thought expectantly. However, overall physical fitness is too difficult to improve even after eating so many physique-enhancing fruits. His star level didn't improve. Eating mutated frog meat will take effect very slowly in comparison. I seem to be more suitable for fruits of will. Then eat. See if you can raise your will to 100 today. Jiang Fan didn't hesitate, took out a handful of soul light fruit and started eating it. Chapter 102. The effect of over 100 wills. 9-star spiritual light. Jiang Fan didn't finish the second handful when he heard the prompt. Ling. Inner light is increased to 7 stars. Inner fire consumption is reduced. Willpower plus 25. Jiang Fan was secretly happy. Sure enough, I am suitable for willpower abilities. I don't know how many times I have eaten the body strengthening fruit, but it still has 4 stars. Just eat a few fruits of the light of the soul and you will be promoted to 7 stars. This gap is too big. Jiang Fan didn't stop and continued eating 1, 2, 3, 1 handful, 2 handfuls, 3 handfuls. Finally, Ling. Inner light has been increased to 8 stars. Inner fire consumption has been reduced. Willpower plus 40. Willpower finally exceeded 100. For a moment, Jiang Fan felt that the world had changed. It was like he had experienced a qualitative change, like eating the fruit of perception for the first time. The world in front of you is still the same world, but it seems that it is not the world. It has become extremely vivid, 3-dimensional, unreal. Jiang Fan was surprised to see key particles floating everywhere in the air. The key thing is that this time it is not observed with a sense of perception, but with the naked eye. There is a huge difference between the two in the perception field of vision. Key Particles slowly emerge from the surroundings as they rotate their own breathing methods, but to the naked eye, after reaching 100 willpower, key, particles originally existed in every corner of the environment. It's just dimmer and smaller. However, they are indeed gas particles. How is this going? Jiang Fan's heart moved and he started breathing. For an instant, the tiny, dim, key particles around him seemed to be attracted and converged towards Jiang Fan, and they collided with each other and bonded together near his body, forming larger, key particles. At this point, he can use his senses to see these air particles. In other words, the perceptual ability can only see the key particles that are large enough and bright enough, but after the willpower exceeds 100, all the key particles can be seen with the naked eye. Jiang Fan immediately teleported to the bottom hall of the Pearl of the Demonic Sea. The originally noisy hall was now empty, shrouded in dark red mist. All day long, plants stretched out through door cracks and rotten glass windows, growing all over the floor. All kinds of weird little bugs crawling everywhere. As time goes by, more and more ferocious-looking new bugs appear, and it is impossible to tell what insects they evolved from. Jiang Fan didn't pay attention. He scanned it with his senses and found no animals that were too powerful. He found a safe room, took out a large table from his personal space, sat on it, and then took out a flesh and blood gem. Soon, the flesh and blood gem began to absorb the red mist. This time, Jiang Fan discovered an amazing phenomenon. After the red mist entered the flesh and blood gem, it condensed into red particles. Then, the flesh and blood gem absorbed the color of the red particles and directly transformed the red mist particles into colorless, key particles. In other words, red mist is another form of key. Jiang Fan took a breath and his expression became serious. This conclusion shocked him extremely. You must know that the breathing method was handed down by Zhang Zilin's ancestor. It was not very useful before, until the red mist came, and her breathing method suddenly started to take effect. No matter how you look at it, this breathing method is specially designed for the red mist era. If this is the case, a question arises that makes Jiang Fan strange. Why did Zhang Zilin's ancestors know a skill that absorbs things that don't exist in the air, unless, in the era of Zhang Zilin's ancestors, there was red mist or qi? Throughout the thousands of years of Chinese history, the so-called red mist era has never been recorded. Is it possible that in the era of Zhang Zilin's ancestors, red mist already existed in certain mountains and deep valleys far away from human habitation, or there was no red mist in that era, but there was colorless and invisible qi in the environment? Therefore, most ordinary people have not discovered the existence of qi at all. Jiang Fan thought for a while and was still confused. What exactly is red mist? What is the reason for the red fog to appear on the earth? Could it be that the red mist is the so-called spiritual energy that revives spiritual energy? However, why does everything evolve, grow bigger, and become stronger? But humans alone do not evolve. Aren't humans animals? What is so special about humans? Jiang Fan silently looked at the dark red mist around him. There is too little information. Can't think of a clue. He could only put this matter aside for the time being. Keep eating. Let's raise the light of the soul to 9 stars first. Jiang Fan ate the fruit of light of the soul one by one. Finally, Ling. The light of the soul has been increased to 9 stars. Jiang Fan was so happy that he immediately checked the effects of the 9-star spiritual light of the soul. 9 stars, full level, cannot be improved. You can see the number of target abilities and have a certain chance of roughly perceiving the effect of the abilities. The success rate depends on the will gap between you and the opponent. You can send out mental shocks to attack the opponent's consciousness. The effect depends on the will gap between you and the opponent. If the attack fails, there will be backlash. As long as the enemy's will is lower than yours, you will be absolutely immune to any will attacks from the opponent. Will plus 60. Immune to will attacks. Jiang Fan was overjoyed with this ability. You are no longer afraid of will attacks. Anyway, it is impossible for a few people or animals to have a will higher than my own. The 9-star will link adds 50 points of will, and the 9-star soul light adds 60 points of will. His will value has reached a terrifying 120 points, 12 times that of ordinary people. This is a crushing gap. The will link forcefully pulls the enemy into the conscious space and creates illusions, which are all related to the will gap between the two parties. In the past, Jiang Fan's willpower was only 60, and these two skills were not very practical. The previous sneak attack on Hulei created the illusion that she was surrounded by walls, which consumed Jiang Fan's energy and could only last for a short time. That's different now. 120 points of will. If it were to happen again, Jiang Fan could easily break through Hulei's will bubble and trap her in his consciousness space for a long time, or create more real and longer illusions. There are 2 new fruits. Jiang Fan raised his lips and took out the 2 newly obtained enlightenment fruits. There are so many women, who should feed them? Jiang Fan thought about it for a while, then opened the portal and returned to the bedroom on the top floor of the Pearl of the Demonic Sea. Perception unfolds. The women are still sleeping. Jiang Fan easily established a link with Liu Mingyao and woke up the sleeping woman. Liu Mingyao, come to my room. Huh? Brother Jiang. Liu Mingyao was so sleepy that she thought she was dreaming. Immediately afterwards, she realized that Jiang Fan was contacting her using the consciousness phone. What else could Jiang Fan do if he suddenly called in the middle of the night? Liu Mingyao was both shy and surprised. She didn't dare to delay and got up quickly. Okay, I'll be there right away. Liu Mingyao immediately opened a bottle of pure water and splashed cold water on her face to wake herself up. Then, she took out a small mirror, quickly put on light makeup, sprinkled on perfume, and put on translucent black gauze pajamas. Before leaving, she thought for a moment, put on a pair of black high-heel shoes with red soles, and then hurried into Jiang Fan's room. As soon as she entered the room, she was embarrassed to see that Hu Lili was also there. Hu Lili was not dressed up, only wearing a pair of loose and comfortable cotton pajamas. Looking at herself again, Liu Mingyao blushed a moment Hu Lili saw Liu Mingyao. She remembered that she was not dressed up. She was woken up by Jiang Fan in a daze and rushed over without thinking too much. BCH, scheming BCH, Hu Lili cursed secretly, and at the same time she was annoyed that she was so stupid and came here without makeup. Jiang Fan glanced at Liu Mingyao with a smile and took out 2 enlightenment fruits. The reward for you will be 1 for each of you. These 2 women had been with him for a long time, but they only had 1 perceptual power. Even Gu Lianying and the others later had 2 powers. Although Gu Lianying and the others joined with special powers, these 2 women should also be rewarded. You can't treat one person favorably or the other person. The 2 girls were stunned for a moment, and then said excitedly, "Thank you, Brother Jiang." "Thank you, Brother Jiang." "Brother Jiang, what kind of ability is this?" Jiang Fan said casually. "You'll know after you eat it." The 2 girls didn't know why, so they could only pick one at random and eat it. Chapter 103. Hu Lei is missing. Mohe TV underground base. The young soldier on duty wondered, "Monitor, did you hear Miss Hu Lei shout?" The old soldier who was taking a nap said disdainfully, "You know how to want women. Miss Hu Lei is the most famous superpower in our base, so don't even think about it." "No chance," the young soldier said awkwardly. "Really, I actually heard her scream." The older soldier snorted coldly. "Okay. Who doesn't know what you think? Don't worry about it. Just stand guard and let me take a rest for a while. Wake me up when the person who changes the guard comes." The young soldier had no choice but to turn his head and look at the closed door of the lounge, and had no choice but to give up. He didn't have the guts to provoke Hu Lei. That woman doesn't show any pretentiousness to male supernatural beings. How can she dare to provoke a little soldier like him? Time passed by minute by minute. It's time for a changing of the guard. A male psychic named Chen Gang walked over with 2 soldiers, talking and laughing. After a brief exchange between the 2 parties, Chen Gang said in confusion, "Ms. Who is the most active after get off work? Why haven't you come out today? Did you fall asleep?" He knocked on the lounge door. Boom, boom, boom. No one opened the door. Chen Gang asked curiously, "Isn't Miss Hu here?" The older soldier smiled apologetically and said, "Report, Miss Hu is inside and has never come out. Maybe she slept hard today." Chen Gang shrugged and knocked on the door again. "Miss Hu, I am Chen Gang. It's time for the changing of the guard." If it was a male with supernatural powers, he would just push the door open and go in, but inside is Hu Lei. This woman was famous for being rude to men and had special abilities. She was very well taken care of by the top management. Chen Gang didn't want to offend Hu Lei. Boom, 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 boom. Chen Gang knocked on the door louder and louder, but there was still no response from inside. Everyone felt something was wrong. Even if you fall asleep, you can't sleep like that, right? The young soldier thought of the cry for help he heard and became nervous. Did something happen to Hu Lei? The older soldiers were also uneasy. Chen Gang couldn't sit still anymore, pulled the door and locked it from the inside. He quickly walked to the lounge and looked inside from the window. The windows are intact, locked from the inside. There was no light inside. It was very dark and it was difficult to see clearly. In addition, the curtains blocked more than half of the window, and from a limited angle, only the table could be seen. But Hu Lei was not seen. Is she still sleeping in bed? Everyone became nervous and quickly patted the windows. Bang bang, bang bang bang. "Miss Hu, Miss Hu." The Room remained silent and no one responded. Everyone began to feel uneasy. The older soldier was even more anxious. He thought of the young soldier's reminder just now and felt that a disaster was coming. Chen Gang narrowed his eyes and said in a deep voice, "Everyone, please prove to me that I forced my way in because I was worried about Miss Hu." Everyone nodded quickly. "Good, Chief, please don't worry." Chen Gang raised his palm, and it instantly turned blue, emitting a cold light. He shouted again, "Miss Hu, I'm coming in." After saying that, swish, 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 the bulletproof glass was cut into several large pieces, and a large piece shattered and fell to the ground. Wow! Chen Gang couldn't wait to jump into the room, and everyone looked inside. The room was empty. Only Hu Lei's sandal was left on the ground. Hu Lei herself disappeared mysteriously. The older soldier turned pale and fell to the ground. Finished. Something really happened. Chen Gang's expression suddenly changed and he said sternly, "You really didn't find anything unusual?" The young soldier then said fearfully, reporting to the leader, "I vaguely heard Miss Hu Lei calling for help about 15 minutes ago, but the monitor said I was troublesome and wouldn't let me check." He threw the pot decisively. "This matter has nothing to do with me." 15 minutes. Chen Gang glared at the older soldier fiercely and said through gritted teeth, "Good job you did." As a person with supernatural powers, Chen Gang understands the importance of Hu Lei very well. Although Hu Lei does not have very strong combat ability, she can see the abilities of other people with powers. Sometimes, you can even see the opponent's ability type. This ability has huge strategic value for the base. Moreover, she is the only one in the entire base who has this ability and cannot be replaced at all. If Hu Lei disappears, things will be very serious. Soon, a piercing siren sounded. The entire base was boiling. A few minutes later, a group of supernatural beings and soldiers surrounded the lounge. Zhang Zilin stood in the crowd with a confused face, not knowing what was happening. Jie Shanai walked into the lounge with several senior executives and looked at the scene in silence. After a careful inspection, a senior criminal police officer analyzed, looking at the traces on the bed. Hu Lei probably found something, so she got up to check, and then she was caught. At about this location, her sandals fell here. There were no signs of fighting in the room, and the guards at the door did not hear any violent sounds. There was only a short cry for help, which shows that Hu Lei was controlled in an instant. The opponent's fighting power is obviously not weak. There is another strange thing. The doors and windows are locked, but Hu Lei is missing. In the past, this was a typical disappearance in a secret room. Now it seems that it can only be the work of a person with special powers. People with superpowers. Jie Shanai squinted his eyes and said, "Lao Ke, have you noticed anything from the surrounding surveillance cameras, Detective?" Lao Ke said, "I have checked. From the time Hu Lei entered the lounge until Chen Gang broke the window and entered, I didn't see anyone approaching." Jie Shanai's face was gloomy. "Then it's 90% possible that he is a person with superpowers. What kind of superpower can he take away?" Hu Lei silently. "Why should we arrest Hu Lei? Is it old hatred or old love?" He was very angry. Hu Lei's ability is extremely important, not to mention this. More importantly, if Hu Lei disappears without any reason, it will be a huge blow to Jie Shanai's prestige. If he can't even guarantee the safety of the base, how can other superpowers believe that he can lead the entire base? Everyone looked at Jie Shanai in silence. Jie Shanai was angry and suppressed his anger and continued to ask, "Have you counted the number of people?" One person replied, "It has been counted. There are 5,531 people in the base, and only Hu Lei is missing. All gates have been checked. No one has entered or exited in the past hour." Duan Zhen, the Chinese-faced major general, suddenly walked out of the crowd and walked around the room. Finally, he stopped in an open space. He squatted down and the tip of his nose twitched. Then he touched the ground and put it in front of his nose and smelled it, with a thoughtful look on his face. Everyone fell silent. Duan Zhen is the only 4 Class A superpowers in the base, and he is also the commander of all soldiers, with extremely high prestige. Jie Shanai knew that one of Duan Zhen's superpowers was his super sense of smell, and asked expectantly, "Major General Duan, what did you find?" Duan Zhen smelled it carefully again and said calmly, "I smelled a strange smell. It's definitely not from our base. This is where he last disappeared." Duan Zhen pointed to the ground with determination. "Ground? Ability to drill into the ground." Everyone looked at the ground in confusion. The concrete floor remained unscathed. "Can you burrow into the ground and leave without damaging the ground?" Burrowing into the ground? Passing through walls? Zhang Zilin thought of Jiang Fan inexplicably. That man has that ability. Could it be Jiang Fan? She thought it was impossible. Jiang Fan is still enjoying the blessings in the fortune center community. There are a lot of beauties around him, and his life is so comfortable that he will not take risks in such a far place. When Zhang Zilin thought of the crowd of women around Jiang Fan, she couldn't help but feel a little sad. She didn't even notice this feeling. Jie Shanyu said coldly, "Nowadays, there are all kinds of strange abilities. It is possible to drill into the ground without damaging the ground. However, he will definitely not be able to go far, because there is no oxygen underground. No matter how powerful it is impossible not to breathe for a long time, so he must show up to breathe at a distance." According to previous experience, the more powerful the ability, the more physical energy it consumes. In addition, he also took Hu Lei away, so the physical energy consumption must be even greater. So, I guess this person is hiding somewhere in the base with Hu Lei corner. It has to show up after a certain distance. It will definitely leave a lot of smell. Duan Zhen's eyes lit up. In other words, that person didn't leave. Jie Shanyu sneered. The possibility is very high. Very good. Now that you are here, let's Major General Sun, blockade the entire base. In the crowd, a silent soldier raised his head. He was Sun Wei. He was originally just an ordinary soldier. After accidentally eating a superpower fruit, he gained powerful space sealing ability. The greatest effect of this ability is to isolate the internal and external spaces. Nothing from the outside can get in, not even fire. Nothing inside can get out. Yes, Chief. Sun Wei simply put his hands together. A light blue translucent cube appears. The cube quickly expanded, passing through everyone, buildings, the ground. A few seconds later, sweat dripped from Sun Wei's forehead and he said weakly, "The entire base has been locked down for 8 hours. 8 hours? It won't work at all." Jie Shanyu quickly ordered, "Major General Duan, I have ordered you to take charge of this capture mission. All superpowers will be temporarily under your command. I want to see that gangster within 3 hours, Duan." Zhen said confidently, "Don't worry, as long as he exposes his head anywhere, I can smell him out. 1 hour is enough." Others also showed confident expressions. Hundreds of people with special powers, in a closed environment, capturing a little mouse that can only dig holes to hide. How to lose? Can't lose. It's a sure win. Jie Shanyu nodded with satisfaction. "Go ahead. Act now. If you dare to come to our base and act wild, I will make him regret being born into this world." Zhang Zilin couldn't help but become nervous when she saw everyone acting aggressively. "No, it's really Jiang Fan, right? If it's really him, what should I do? Do you want to save him?" Zhang Zilin felt uneasy. Chapter 104. The upper limit on the number of superpowers. Everyone takes action. Zhang Zilin had just arrived and had no tasks, so she could only wait for news. Jie Shanyu thought for a while and thought that the infiltrator's purpose should only be to capture Hu Lei. Otherwise, just kill her in the lounge. There is no need to go to all the trouble of taking her away. Therefore, Hu Lei will not encounter any danger for the time being. Jie Shanyu was in a good mood. He couldn't sleep at this time anyway, so he simply asked Zhang Zilin to advance their conversation. "I'm sorry, Miss Zhang, for making you laugh." Zhang Zilin quickly said, "Hello, Director Jack." The two exchanged brief greetings. Zhang Zilin expressed her desire to stay at the base and contribute to the organization and the people. Jie Shanyu was disdainful in his heart, but his face was still sanctimonious. "Don't worry. The safety of people's lives has always been in my heart. Unfortunately, we do not have enough strength. When I think of the people outside who are still suffering, my heart is very heavy." Jie Shanyu had a heavy expression on his face. Zhang Zilin said excitedly, "Director Jack, I don't need too many resources. As long as you give me a troop and some supplies, I can rescue more survivors. I have traveled more than 10 kilometers in the dense forest outside and have a very good understanding of the situation in the Demon Sea. Have confidence to complete the task." Jie Shanyu cursed Zhang Zilin in his heart for being ignorant. "Why save so many garbage survivors? The base currently has enough manpower. What I need are obedient soldiers and researchers." If times hadn't changed and the superhuman possessed powerful combat power, he would have dismissed Zhang Zilin long ago. "How dare a soldier question the leader's decision? Who do you think you are?" It's a pity that it can't be done now. If Zhang Zilin left in disappointment, Jie Shanyu wouldn't even be able to stop him. It is even less possible to use violent means to stop it, which will only put other people with powers in danger. But it won't work if he doesn't stop him. Zhang Zilin is a grade A superpower and has strong personal strength. He defeated the powerful Jia Mengxun on the first day he entered the base. If she wants to pull people away, Many people with superpowers will be tempted, Alice. The old times are better when a leader reprimands his subordinates. Who would dare to question the leader? Isn't this seeking death grass? Damn new age, Jiang said awkwardly. This mission needs to be considered in the long term. Miss Zhang is one of the few grade A superpowers in the base. You must be cautious in your mission. You must also protect your own safety and health. You must live safely. Going down is the greatest contribution to the country and the people. Zhang Zilin frowned. She had a vague feeling that the base was very inactive in rescuing survivors, but she didn't know why. Director Jer, is the material pressure on the base very high? Shanai immediately denied. No. The base has plenty of supplies. Miss Zhang, you have just arrived at the base and don't know much about the situation here. Please rest for a few days before making arrangements. If Miss Zhang has any questions, I will definitely tell you. Zhang Zilin was helpless. However, this situation is also common in organizations. The organization does not support many individual ideas. She had worked in the police station for several years and was used to it, so she didn't think much about it. Maybe the leader also has pressure that he doesn't know about. She asked a few more curious questions. I remember there was a military unit not far from Mohe City. Why didn't they come in to rescue? Shanhu secretly scolded Zhang Zilin for being troublesome. Should you, a small police officer, worry about such a big thing? However, on the surface he just sighed. This army was very unlucky. The top 3 military leaders were all dead. After that, there was chaos and internal strife. Finally, I heard that a young officer named Yang Shadows took over. I don't know what happened after that. Her place was originally the Military Research Institute, is not closely related to the army. Zhang Zilin nodded silently. She looked at Zheshanayu in front of her, and unlike the frankness with which he spoke to her, the light on this man was yellow. It shows that he does not trust himself, but is very wary, and may have hidden a lot of information. This made Zhang Zilin feel a little unhappy. However, it's normal if you think about it. After all, he is an outsider. Zheshanayu is a high-ranking person, and it is normal to have a bit of power. Zhang Zilin was just a little unhappy. Zheshanayu said sadly again, probably because transportation is inconvenient, and the red mist blocks the view. The military cannot travel long distances if they march on foot. There may be a lot of abnormal attrition on the road if the losses are too great. Yang Shadows may not be able to bear it now. In the end of the world, transportation has almost been cut off. There are many mountains everywhere, and some people may have some thoughts that they shouldn't have. Haha. Zhang Zilin couldn't help but become disappointed with the military. Why did the Dragon Kingdom become like this? It wasn't like this before. Zhang Zilin was helpless and asked again, Director Jack, I have another question. Since there are still 2 superpower fruits in the base, why not select superpowers and feed them to enhance their strength? Shanhai finally breathed a sigh of relief and finally came across a question that was easy to answer. The most important reason is, of course, that the number of superpower fruits is not enough. But it is not the only reason. When we first collected the superpower fruits, we immediately distributed them in the form of rewards. Later, I discovered that the number of superpowers that each person can bear is not unlimited. Superpowers actually place a heavy burden on the human body. If the limit is exceeded, the body will frequently get sick and then die. People with excellent physical fitness or people with extraordinary talents can bear 5 or 6 superpowers, such as you grade A superpower users. The upper limit most people can afford is very small. 3 is the limit. Basically, the upper limit of the number of superpowers has a great relationship with a person's physical fitness. The limit for young adults is generally 3, and the older ones can only bear 1 or 2, so, if your physical fitness is much higher than that of ordinary people at first glance, and Jiamengxuan's test shows that it is true, we can allocate 1 to you. But since Yang Jiaoyi is old, he did not give him the power fruit. In fact, due to the limitation of the upper limit of superpowers, most of the superpower users in the base are consciously controlling the number of their superpowers to avoid reaching the upper limit because no one knows what the superpowers in the superpower fruits are, and they prefer I hope to take in new abilities that can cooperate and link with my own abilities, rather than completely unrelated abilities. Zheshanayu thought to himself, if you could eat unlimited super fruits, I already have dozens of superpowers. Is there any need to curry favor with you bullshit superpowers? Snort. Zhang Zilin expressed understanding. For example, my first ability is obviously a melee-oriented ability. Burst. The second ability, Perception, has very average coordination, but it is not bad. At least it can detect dangerous creatures lurking under leaves and bushes. She can trek more than 10 kilometers in the dense forest. And her perception ability plays a huge role. The third ability I acquired was completely incompatible with the previous ability. What does extracting a certain substance from metal have to do with combat? If you give yourself the ability to increase battery life, your combat effectiveness will definitely double, she asked curiously. Can the base determine the superpowers and superpower fruits? Not at the moment. Jiang denied, then waved his hand and said generously, however, human technology is progressing. If we can't judge now, it may not be possible in the future. Everyone leaves an empty ability slot for themselves, and there is hope for adjustment in the future. In comparison, it is too difficult to improve one's physical fitness. In addition, there is good news to inform you. Academician Guo Changting, China's top expert in the field of biology, was giving lectures in Mohe City when the red mist came. I have already contacted him and sent someone to pick him up. I believe Academician Guo will be brought back soon. If anyone in the Dragon Kingdom can crack the secret of the superpower fruit, Academician Guo has the greatest hope. If you stay at the base, you may be able to choose the appropriate superpower fruit according to your own needs in the future. Zhang Zilin was immediately moved in the dangerous red mist era. She naturally wanted to continuously enhance her own strength. As soon as Jiang saw Zhang Zilin's expression, he immediately stepped up his efforts to paint a bigger picture. Just like the two superpower fruits existing in our base, if Academician Guo determines their abilities and they are suitable for you, then I can make the decision and give them to you directly, Zhang Zilin quickly said. Thank you, Director Zhao. However, the distribution of superpower fruits is the key task now. I completely abide by the distribution system of the base and will never do anything special. I have absolutely no objection to the base's previous distribution according to the regulations and what will be used in the future. Jiang laughed. Ha ha ha. Miss Zhang is such a good comrade. For a while, the guests and hosts were enjoying themselves. Chapter 105. What? The superpower fruit is missing. The demon Kong Yongjin. 2 hours later, Duanzhen searched the entire base and finally found the location where the infiltrators scent reappeared, the superpower fruit warehouse. In the small cubicle, evolved apricot trees and leeks are growing well, but the superpower fruit hanging on it has disappeared. Soon, Jiang brought a warehouse of human superpower fruits and said with a livid face, "Where's the fruit? Who can tell me, where's the superpower fruit?" All the superpower executives looked ugly. The superpower fruit warehouse is not a resource for one person, but for all superpowers. Now someone actually dares to steal the superpower fruits here. This is a slap in the face to all superpower users. Moreover, superpower fruits were worth tens of thousands of gold in the red mist era. 2 of such precious materials were actually lost. The guard captain of the warehouse area cried with sadness and said with fear, "It has been confirmed that it was done by a person with superpowers." He played a video during the surveillance. A hand stretched out strangely from the floor of the cubicle and quickly picked away 2 superpower fruits. The corner of Zhang Zilin's mouth twitched. Isn't this Jiang Fan? Sure enough, it was him who did it. How did this guy know there was a supernatural fruit here? All the superpowers were furious. He is indeed a little thief who digs holes in the ground. A hole? Don't let me catch you. Everyone in the base was furious and turned the base upside down. Unfortunately, there were no strangers to be found. The 8-hour space blockade period and still haven't found anyone. They will definitely suffer this dumb loss. What's even more troublesome is that in the face of this infiltration method, many of the base's originally safe defense measures are no longer safe. This mysterious infiltrator can come in once or twice. This time I came in and just stole 2 superpower fruits and kidnapped 2 Lei. What should I do if I throw in a few grenades next time? What if we throw poison gas bombs? Jiang and other senior officials had a deep headache in order to plug these defense loopholes. I don't know how much preparation needs to be done. You can't even defend yourself at all. Who can defend against an enemy that appears from the ground silently? Jiang's scalp went numb when he thought of such a disgusting and terrifying rat beside his bed. There is no way to guard against thieves for 1,000 days. He felt fierce in his heart and said, "Major General Duan, I order you to stop all tasks at hand and immediately form a search team of 20 people with pure powers. You must catch this mouse. As long as traces of him are found, the base will make every effort to support you and completely capture him. Behead, Duan." Zhen also knew the threat of this person and said solemnly, "Don't worry. Drilling into the ground will definitely consume a lot of energy and you won't be able to travel long distances. This person should be in a survivor colony next to our base. I will definitely be able to find him." Zhang Zilin looked at the murderous looks of everyone and felt worried for Jiang Fan. "We're in trouble now. You must hide and don't show your face. Who? Lily ate the superpower fruit first. Jiang Fan saw the prompt. Ling. Who Lily consumes 1 enlightenment fruit physique strengthening and returns 1,100 fruits. It has been put into the portable space. Another physical strengthening fruit. Jiang Fan was a little disappointed. He glanced at the prompt. Enlightenment fruit, physique strengthening. 2 stars. After consumption, it can strengthen the body. Eating the same fruit repeatedly has a chance of improving the star rating. Jiang Fan was stunned. The previous physical strengthening fruit was 1 star. There is actually a 2-star physical strengthening fruit. It turns out that the same fruit can have different star ratings. I can't get a star after eating a 1-star physical strengthening fruit. What if I eat a 2-star physical strengthening fruit? Jiang Fan is looking forward to it. I seem to have become stronger. Hu Lily looked at her hands blankly. Jiang Fan smiled and said, well, with enhanced physical fitness, your physical fitness is more than twice that of ordinary people. Give it a try. So strong. Hu Lily looked around, reached out and grabbed the solid wood seat, and lifted hundreds of kilograms of things easily. She couldn't wait to try to lift the bedside table, and she lifted it easily. Hu Lily was extremely excited. Thank you, Brother Jiang. Thank you, Brother Jiang. Immediately afterwards, she discovered that some black substances were discharged from her skin, which looked very dirty and smelly. Ah! What is this, Jiang Fan said calmly. Strengthening your body will remove toxins from your body, which is good for your body. Go back and wash it off, okay? Hu Lily said happily and hurried back to her room to take a shower. Liu Mingyao glanced at Hu Lily enviously, and then swallowed her fruit. Ling. Liu Mingyao consumes 1 enlightenment fruit, flexibility, and returns 1,100. It has been put into the portable space. Enlightenment fruit, flexible. 1 star. After consumption, it can make the body flexible. Eating the same fruit repeatedly has a chance of improving the star rating. In an instant, Liu Mingyao felt that the ligaments and joints in her body were much looser. Moreover, it is not just soft, but also very powerful. Liu Mingyao involuntarily bent back, her waist was soft, and her head easily reached the ground. Actions that were impossible to do before could now be done at will. In the end, an amazing threefold jiu-jitsu was formed. However, Liu Mingyao was not happy. This kind of flexibility ability is far behind Hu Lily's comprehensive strengthening of physical fitness. Brother Jiang, Liu Mingyao said aggrievedly, my ability is too weak. Jiang Fan's eyes shone. No. This ability is great. Ha. The entrance of Mohei Yujing community. All the survivors came and sent Kong Yongzhen, Zhou Tao and others away. Kong Yongzhen, who is short in stature, is standing in front of everyone and making an impassioned speech. Everyone, I want to go to the base with Colonel Zhou and Academician Guo to explore the way and urge the base to send people to pick you up as soon as possible. Although the road ahead is dangerous, for your well-being, I don't care about this little risk. You don't have to worry. Everyone's eyes filled with tears. Director Kong. You can't leave, Director Kong. What will we do if you leave? This is too risky. Let us go in your place, Director Kong. Director Kong. Even Zhou Tao, Wu Jun, and Guo Changting were all excited. This is a good official. For the sake of the people, dare to take risks and never look back. Li Qingyu felt cold all over. In the past 2 days, she had witnessed Kong Yongzhen's evil operations with her own eyes. He made several grand speeches. When I heard it, it was full of official talk and lies. However, what is outrageous is that everyone believed it. Even the well-informed academician Guo Changting fell in love with his ideas, obeyed Kong Yongzhen's words and was deeply convinced. You must remember what Director Kong said. You must first report to Kong Yongzhen among all the people. Only Li Qingyu could remain calm and not be affected by Kong Yongzhen. Li Qingyu knew that this person's ability was definitely abnormal. Kong Yongzhen seemed to know that she was special and said bad things about Li Qingyu several times to Zhou Tao and Guo Changting. Then, Li Qingyu was ostracized by everyone. If it weren't for her special ability to help everyone transport supplies, Li Qingyu doubted that she might have been killed. After Kong Yongzhen delivered a passionate speech, he sat on the metal plate and said with high spirits, let's go. Let's go to the Pearl of the Demon Sea first, and then go to the base. Before Zhou Tao gave the order, the soldiers he brought took action according to Kong Yongzhen's command. The scary thing is that even Zhou Tao doesn't feel anything wrong with such an outrageous and illegal thing. The soldiers and researchers of the original team, as well as the 10 direct confidants that Kong Yongzhen took away, all completely obeyed Kong Yongzhen's orders. Li Qinggai was unable to resist at all, so she could only follow Kong Yongzhen's request and walked into the dense forest. I hope Director Je can deal with this monster. Chapter 106 6-star Physical Enhancement. The effect of over 100 physical fitness. Jiang Fan came to the living room. The women were chatting. Hu Lily, you also have 3 powers. Congratulations, brother. Jiang really loves you. I'm so envious. Hu Lily was playing the lute when she suddenly saw Jiang Fan. She quickly stopped her smile and said with a smile, Brother Jiang. Jiang Fan doesn't care about women's little pride. Are you happy, Hu Lily laughed awkwardly. Happy, Jiang Fan patted Hu Lily on the head. If you're happy, you will have to work harder in the future. Breakfast is ready. Jiang Fan sat on the main seat and started eating. A group of women gathered around him in order and had breakfast with Jiang Fan, thinking of all kinds of interesting things to say regardless of whether they were sincere or not. A group of beauties smiling around him made Jiang Fan feel happy. Bian curiously said, Hey, why doesn't Sister Mingyao come to dinner? Jiang Fan waved his hand. She was very tired last night and will probably have to sleep for a long time. The girls suddenly realized and started laughing. Hu Lily was extremely envious. If you put on makeup and go there last night, would you be the one staying overnight? There are more and more women. Jiang Fan's love is limited. He must seize every opportunity, and opportunities are reserved for those who are prepared. Hu Lily regretted that she glanced at the other women absently, and then she was surprised to find that even if they were just having breakfast, these were all dressed up. Tang Zhao was wearing a semi-sheer chiffon shirt, with black underwear looming underneath. Su Menqian's makeup is very delicate, coupled with her carefully prepared hairstyle. It probably took at least an hour to get up in the morning. Gu Lining didn't know how long she had begged Jiang Fan, but she actually got herself a fluttering hanfu and wore it, which complemented her personal temperament. Like a fairy from heaven, even the more introverted Su Jin put on high heels and black stockings. Hu Lily looked at herself and immediately felt ashamed. She was actually still wearing the ordinary pajamas. Compared with the other girls vying for beauty, she looked like a little country girl who had just entered the city. No wonder I only had 1 superpower until last night. If Brother Jiang hadn't taken care of it deliberately, I don't know how I would have gotten the second one in my lifetime. These bitches are so insidious and shameless. From now on I will have to put on makeup when I get up in the morning. Jiang Fan finished eating, briefly moved around for a while, and then teleported to the bottom of the Pearl of the Demonic Sea. Jiang Fan returned to the last room. He took out a flesh and blood gem and placed it on the table, then sat cross-legged on it and began to practice breathing techniques with the flesh and blood gem transforming into aura, and after the willpower exceeds 100, you can see finer, key particles in the air. Jiang Fan practices the breathing method very quickly and can fill it up in almost 2 minutes, then empty it, then fill it again and empty it again. About 2 hours later, Jiang Fan stopped. After practicing for so long, the tree of 10,000 Dharma still remains unchanged. We have indeed reached a bottleneck period, but I don't know how to break through. Jiang Fan couldn't figure it out, so he could only give up temporarily and carefully put the flesh and blood gem into his personal space. Then, he took out a flexibility fruit and ate it, successfully gaining flexibility. The introduction of this ability is very simple. Flexibility 1 star. The flexibility of the muscles and bones of the whole body is increased by 100%. It's actually a percentage. This has a lot to do with your initial flexibility. Jiang Fan tried, but he really couldn't do Liu Mingyao's 30%, not to mention the fold. Even if you bend over, you can't touch your head to the ground. Liu Mingyao used to be a fitness girl. She practices yoga all year round and has better flexibility than most women, not to mention a man like Jiang Fan. This ability has little effect on violent output like me. If Zhang Zilin gets it, it will be different. It will have a huge bonus to her melee ability. She can probably do many actions that she couldn't do before. Come out. Jiang Fan ate dozens more pliable fruits, but still did not improve to 2 stars. This is normal. Jiang Fan is not too disappointed. Flexibility must be a physical ability. Jiang Fan's body is not well adapted to this type of superpower. If you keep eating, you will definitely get 2 or 3 stars. But Jiang Fan did not continue eating. There was a more important experiment today. Can a 2-star physical enhancement fruit increase the physical fitness to 4 stars or above? He wanted to save his stomach to eat the physical strengthening fruit. Jiang Fan didn't start eating immediately. Instead, he took out a 2-star physical strengthening fruit and a 1 star physical strengthening fruit and placed them in front of him to compare them carefully. After repeated comparisons, he could not see any obvious difference between the two, no matter with the naked eye or with perception. Jiang Fan could only give up. Start eating. He took out an iron basin and filled it with 2-star physical strengthening fruits. That is to say, he has a high physical constitution, a good appetite, and quick digestion. Otherwise this pot of fruit would make him vomit. Jiang Fan ate one piece at a time after eating about 100 pills. I was pleasantly surprised. Physical enhancement is upgraded to 5 stars. Comprehensive physical fitness plus 130. 4-star physical enhancement only increases physical fitness by 80, upgraded to 5 stars, and it suddenly jumped to 130. Jiang Fan immediately opened the properties panel. Host, Jiang Fan, comprehensive physical fitness. 141, average 10 for ordinary adults, will. 120, average 10 for ordinary adults, comprehensive physical fitness. 141, over 100, Jiang Fan was overjoyed. Suddenly, he felt a surge of energy and blood all over his body, as if a certain barrier had been broken. His body was completely transformed by invisible power. A few minutes later, he was pleasantly surprised to see that his skin was as smooth and tender as a baby's, and even every hair was perfect in perception. The bones in the body are as warm as jade and emit bright white light. Every breath seems to absorb the essence of heaven and earth. No, really absorb the essence of heaven and earth. Jiang Fan clearly saw that even if he did not use the nameless breathing method, he could still inhale a large number of qi particles into his body with every ordinary breath. Isn't this just practicing the breathing method all the time? In other words, every time you breathe, you are getting stronger, although the speed of absorbing qi particles is far less fast than the active nameless breathing method. It is a 24-hour uninterrupted practice. Now that my physique has reached level 1, I can crush Zhang Zilin by relying solely on physical strength, even without using energy and blood bursts. Jiang Fan did not test, but continued to eat 2-star physical strengthening fruits. After his comprehensive physical fitness exceeded 100, his digestive ability was also greatly enhanced. As long as he thinks about it, he can actively control the rapid peristalsis of his stomach and quickly digest the large amount of superpower fruit he has just eaten. Then empty your stomach and keep eating. 1, 2, 3, finally, Jiang Fan heard a pleasant prompt. Physical enhancement is upgraded to 6 stars. Comprehensive physical fitness plus 200. Comprehensive physical fitness plus 200. The panel value has reached a terrifying 211. Jiang Fan was surprised. This is too strong. If another 500% energy and blood burst is used, the comprehensive physical fitness value will skyrocket to an incredible 1055. With a combined physique of over 1,000, what a terrifying combat power it will be. Tisk. Tisk. There is a kind of numerical beauty. Jiang Fan couldn't wait to find an opponent to test it out. At this moment, a group of people broke into his range of perception. The leader was a man in full iron armor, holding a huge axe and cutting through thorns, heading straight towards the bottom of the Pearl of the Demonic Sea. Chapter 107, Team of Superpowers. Under the combined effect of perception and the light of the soul, Jiang Fan figured out the enemy's situation from a distance. This team of 2 or 30 people actually has 6 superpowers. The person with the brightest light is the armored man in the lead, who has 3 superpowers in addition to the very obvious body armor. Another superpower seems to be related to physical fitness and endurance. There is another one that Jiang Fan has never seen before, so he doesn't know what it is. Next is the middle-aged man sitting on the metal plate. This man actually has 4 powers. His will bubble is very strong, almost the same as who lay before. Obviously, this man also has willpower. In addition, there were 2 supernatural light groups. Jiang Fan had never seen them before and couldn't guess what they were. The last superpower is very familiar to Jiang Fan, and his physique has been strengthened. Jiang Fan frowned slightly. It seems that the probability of the growth of physique-enhancing fruits is relatively high. I have seen 3 of them. In addition to the 2 people, there is also a special female officer holding a string of metal plates. Although the light on her body is not very bright, her will bubble is stronger than ordinary people. Another person with powers of will. Jiang Fan feels very strange. Will powers appear too frequently. In addition to this will power, the female officer also has an obvious power. She can levitate a string of metal plates. It's probably the ability to control gravity or something like that. Jiang Fan analyzed secretly. The female officer can hold a dozen suspended metal plates alone and move around easily, and heavy materials and personnel are also transported on the metal plates. This is really a transportation skill. Of course, It is still far from Jiang Fan's portable space. The other three superpowers are ordinary soldiers. The light on their bodies is very average, and their powers are different. They are probably not particularly powerful powers at this moment. Jiang Fan suddenly discovered that a faint red light suddenly appeared in his perception within 50 meters, and then disappeared in a flash. Jiang Fan was startled and quickly looked carefully, only to realize that it was a huge bat. The light on the bat is very blurry and changes from time to time, blending into the background. It's almost impossible to see clearly unless you look carefully. This is the first time Jiang Fan has discovered a power that can evade perception. It wasn't until the bat was only 20 meters away from Jiang Fan that it became completely invisible in perception. Jiang Fan secretly became vigilant. It turns out that perception is not omnipotent. The bat flew into the hall through a window hole, then transformed into a soldier and landed on the ground. He is also a superpower. No, this team is too strong. The equipment is complete, including reconnaissance, auxiliary, main attack, and a bunch of subordinate soldiers. Jiang Fan decided not to take the risk and immediately put away the table. His body disintegrated and sank into the ground. He dived deeply and stopped at a depth of about 30 meters from the ground, silently observing the team. If they were just passing through, Jiang Fan would let them go. If they were planning to climb the Pearl of the Demonic Sea, then Jiang Fan would consider taking action. Batman checked the room and quickly discovered the traces of the table legs on the floor. He sniffed, and there was still a smell of barbecue in the air. It was the smell of Jiang Fan eating mutated frog barbecue. Batman immediately became alert. Someone was here not long ago, he quickly said into the headset. Report. Traces of survivors observed. Joe Tao immediately raised his fist, and everyone was on alert. Everyone is on alert. 4 people are here to help with the big eye inspection. Yes. The 4 soldiers left the team and walked into the deep red mist. Silence returned to the surroundings. Only the constant chirping of insects was left. Everyone protected Guo Changting and Kong Yongjin in the middle. The atmosphere became tense. The surrounding red mist seems to hide endless dangers. Every time you see a survivor, it may not be a good thing. Kong Yongjin was also very nervous. His ability is the most powerful among the crowd, but that may not be the case when facing hidden enemies. Maybe he would be killed instantly without a chance to speak. Fortunately, Wu Jun's reply came shortly. Report. Safe. All rooms have been checked and the survivors have left. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Zhou Tao took the lead and led everyone into the deserted Demon Sea Pearl Hall. The ground is covered with various plants. 2 soldiers were waiting at the door and led everyone to the room where Jiang Fan had stayed. Zhou Tao looked at the marks on the ground and said calmly, "This survivor has left. Be on guard in groups. Others will rest for 15 minutes, replenish their strength, and then start going upstairs." After arriving in a safer room, everyone felt much more relaxed. In an indoor environment, you only need to guard the doors and windows to ensure safety. It is completely different from the wild where enemies or mutated animals may appear from all directions. A soldier began to use supernatural powers to treat the wounded. A man brought by Kong Yongjin had a cut on his cheek by a bush. Another soldier was even worse. His calf was bitten by a cockroach as big as the sole of his shoe, and the wound stunk. He grinned in pain and said nervously, "Brother Wang, can you save me?" Wang. How? The military doctor with superpowers observed it and said easily, "It's okay, it's not poisonous." The soldier suddenly felt relaxed. Wang Hao took out a bottle of alcohol to clean the wound and put a few anti-inflammatory pills in the palm of his hand. A flash of light flashed. Alcohol and anti-inflammatories give off a green glow. The efficacy of the medicine has been enhanced several times, which is enough to deal with these skin injuries. After Wang Hao treated the 2 wounded, the atmosphere in the team became much more relaxed. This team was able to travel long distances in the dense forest without attrition, and Wang Hao, a military doctor with special powers, played a major role. Of course, Li Qingyu's ability to carry supplies is also very important. No matter how powerful Wang Hao's powers were, he still had to rely on Li Qingyu to transport a large amount of medicine. In addition, there is Wu Jun, who is responsible for investigation and uses the ultrasonic detection ability of bats to detect threats in advance and escort the team. Zhou Tao is the core. Any danger that cannot be solved will eventually be solved with violence for ordinary survivors. The jungle is full of dangers for this well-matched team of superpowers. It's just a little dangerous and tired so far. The threat posed by mutated animals and survivors to the team is not as great as the red mist that blocks their vision. Kong Yongjin began to deliver cliché speeches again. Comrades, brothers, we have arrived at the Pearl of the Demon Sea. Today's mission went very smoothly. However, some problems were also exposed in previous actions. Let me simply emphasize a few key points. First, we must strengthen communication. Unify the mind. Soon, everyone's morale was boosted again and they were full of confidence in completing the mission. Everyone is no longer worried about the traces of survivors just now. We have such a strong team and such excellent leadership, so there are no difficulties that we cannot overcome. Under the leadership of Director Kong, we can defeat any enemy. Chapter 108. If you can kill someone with a black gun, why do you have to do it hard? Li Kengyu, who is ostracized by everyone, was out of tune with the fanatical atmosphere. She walked to the corner alone, ate compressed biscuits alone, and watched all this with worry. Li Kengyu was deeply worried. Could Jie Shanai really deal with Kong Yongjin? Unless she killed Kong Yongjin as soon as they met, she doubted whether Jie Shanai would be persuaded. Once Kong Yongjin was given a chance to speak. Kong Yongjin's abilities are so weird. By the way, why won't I be persuaded? What's so special about me? Jiang Fan, who is underground, also frowned. He noticed something was wrong with this group of people. How come when that damn fat guy talks, these people act like they've taken drugs? Immediately afterwards, Jiang Fan discovered some clues as the middle-aged dwarf man spoke. Invisible ripples of will spread out from his will bubble. This invisible ripple, like an ocean wave, washes away other people's will bubbles. Only the female superpower's will bubble was relatively strong and seemed unaffected. The middle-aged short fat man punched in one move. Everyone waved their fists excitedly, and even their cheeks turned red with excitement. Jiang Fan secretly felt chilled. Is this foolish loyalty plus violent aura? The role this ability can play in a group is simply unimaginable. Jiang Fan stood quietly underground, coldly monitoring the movements of this group of people. After 15 minutes, everyone began to pack up and prepare for action. The Batman took the lead in turning into a bat and began to explore the road, looking for a way to climb the Pearl of the Demonic Sea. Jiang Fan's eyes narrowed. There is a road to heaven, why don't you take it? Soon, everyone discovered that the stairs and elevator were blocked. There are survivors up there. The atmosphere became depressing again. Everyone looked up the elevator shaft in unison. It was so blocked that nothing could be seen. Kong Yongjin frowned. The people above have blocked the downstairs. How can they come down to collect supplies? Everyone was a little puzzled. Zhou Tao analyzed calmly. Perhaps the number of people upstairs should be very small, 2 or 3 people at most, or maybe even 1 person. They don't know how to collect a large amount of supplies, and they think they can live up there for a long time, long enough to survive until the national rescue. So they put the people upstairs. The bottom is sealed. This explanation is a bit forced. After the red mist falls, how can there be so many supplies for people to collect? When was collecting supplies not a river of blood? Li Kengyu suddenly said, is it possible that the survivor just now is the person upstairs? That person has already noticed that we are coming. Everyone originally didn't want to talk to her, but what Li Kengyu said made sense. But this doesn't explain how the people above came down. Wu Jun scratched his head and said, well, I think the survivor upstairs can also fly. He can fly down to collect supplies. Everyone suddenly became enlightened. Yes, since Wu Jun can fly, why can't others? This explanation is much more reasonable. Zhou Tao was also relieved. Generally speaking, ordinary survivors can only find one superpower fruit. If the survivor's ability is flying, then the combat power is not something to be afraid of. Wu Jun is like this. His investigative ability is top-notch, and he can basically be ignored in a fight. Everyone understood this truth and the atmosphere became relaxed. Now that you know the other party's abilities, the pressure is much less. Kong Yongjin smiled and said, a flying superpower is still very useful. If he shows up, Colonel Zhou, don't worry about killing him. As long as you can catch him, I will be sure to convince him to become our comrade. Zhou Tao smiled and nodded. Don't worry, Director Kong. Leave it to me, military. Dr. Wang Hao smiled relaxedly and said, Colonel Zhou, please be gentle, don't crush him to death. Ha ha ha. Let's start taking action. Only Li Kengyu was worried. Have you noticed that the thing blocking the elevator shaft is a little unusual? Kong Yongjin waved his hand. What's wrong? It's just a bunch of rubbish. Start taking action. Yes. Everyone took action immediately. Li Kengyu glanced helplessly at the debris in the elevator shaft. She seemed to see a twisted SUV buried in a pile of garbage. What kind of ability can you put a car into an elevator shaft? Zhou Tao checked the stairs again, and after confirming that the stairs were really impassable, he took people outside and walked to the towering and thick Pearl of the Demonic Sea support, blocking. The stairs can only block one section. I don't believe they can block the entire staircase of several hundred meters. Big eyes, you fly up first, find a stair window and fly in, see where the blockage is, and report back. Yes. Wu Jun turned into a bat and disappeared into the red mist. After a while, a reply came from the headset. Report, only 20 meters blocked. Everyone was overjoyed. Zhou Tao laughed and said, put down the rope and let me go up first. The others will stay on guard. A rope was quickly lowered. Zhou Tao grabbed the rope and ordered, Major Li, help me. Okay. Li Qinggai grabbed the corner of the rope. Ability activated. Zhou Tao, who was covered in metal armor, suddenly felt his body light up and could barely feel his weight, and quickly climbed up. Jiang Fan, who was underground, frowned and looked at everyone's cooperation. He had to admit that he still wanted to keep things simple. The era of superpowers is completely different from the past. This kind of defense can only block ordinary people, and many people with superpowers can easily break it. But, Jiang Fan sneered, you have superpowers, but I don't. If you plan to go upstairs, then go to hell. Jiang Fan quickly rose to the ground, came to a place 50 meters away from everyone, found a big tree and climbed up. He found a thick horizontal branch and took out his sniper rifle first. He used the muzzle of his gun to pick off a snake disguised as a dead branch, and then sat firmly on the trunk for others. The red mist blocking their sight has now become Jiang Fan's most perfect protection. That group of people didn't even notice Jiang Fan, who was 50 meters away. Jiang Fan's perception was very clear to everyone. If you can shoot a black gun, you'll have to fight head-on. Jiang Fan raised his lips slightly, raised his sniper rifle, and aimed at the depths of the red mist. Zhou Tao quickly climbed into the window. After confirming that there was no danger inside, he asked Wu Jun to climb another 50 meters to be on guard. He himself used the radio to issue commands to the following: everything goes well. It's safe here. Come on up, everyone. Below was very happy. Several soldiers dismantled the metal plate into dozens of scattered metal pieces, and then tied them to everyone. Surrounded by everyone, Kong Yongjin was the first to grab the rope. Li Qinggai grabbed the rope and activated his ability. Kong Yongjin felt the metal lose gravity and pull himself upward. The pull is strong, it even made his body float. Kong Yongjin barely needs any effort. He only needs to hold on to the rope and pull it upwards. Everyone cheered for Kong Yongjin. Director Kong is amazing. Director Kong's glory remains the same as before. Kong Yongjin climbed up in a hurry. Halfway up, he suddenly heard a roar. Boom. At the same time, my chest shook. Kong Yongjin looked at his chest in disbelief. There was a huge blood hole there. How could I die here? I cannot be reconciled. I am obviously a man who wants to be the king of the world. Kong Yongjin's consciousness fell into darkness. His hands fell weakly from the rope, and his body fell. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 109: Kill by Force. Plop! Kong Yongjin's body fell heavily to the ground. Everyone on the ground was stunned for an instant, and they all froze on the spot. Director Kong is actually dead. Who shot a black gun a hole? He actually killed Director Kong. Li Qinggai was surprised at first, and then ecstatic. Have a good death. This guy is finally dead. Since Kong Yongjin was killed after climbing to about 10 meters, Zhou Tao could not see what was happening below. He anxiously stuck his head out of the window and shouted, "Who fired the shot? Who fired the shot?" Boom! A bullet hit his head, causing sparks to fly. The bullet was blocked by the armor and bounced away. Clang! Zhou Tao was startled and quickly put armor on his face to protect his whole body. The one below shouted angrily, "Colonel Zhou, be careful. There are snipers." Director Kong is dead. Jiang Fan frowned. This guy's armor is so hard. Why does it look like a BD shell? If you can't kill others first. Boom! Another soldier suddenly had blood splattered on his neck and fell to the ground on his back without saying a word. The huge power of the sniper rifle directly shot his neck into two pieces, leaving only a trace of skin connecting his head and body. Blood splattered everywhere. Everyone was so frightened that they no longer cared about grieving Kong Yongjin's death. Run! Don't run! He can see us. Take cover, hurry! And take cover. Hurry and get down. Li Qinggai immediately hid behind the steel frame, shivering. The deaths of Kong Yongjin and the soldiers revealed Jiang Fan's general location. Most people know to hide in a position with their backs turned. The few who were thinking slowly found a tree to hide under, leaving their backs to Jiang Fan. Jiang Fan will not be polite. Boom! Boom! Each bullet is like the scythe of death, harvesting lives. Jiang Fan fired the gun coldly. Give priority to those with special abilities. There is no reason to explain the end of the world. Since you bumped into my house, consider yourself unlucky. With the support of precision talent and perception, he can hit the target with all his shots, killing whoever he hits. Even people hiding behind some trees that were not too thick were shot to death by sniper rifles piercing the trees in just half a minute. 10 people died. Everyone was scared crazy, holding their heads and hiding in various hidden positions. They were in locations where it was difficult for Jiang Fan to shoot. Zhou Tao was so anxious that he jumped down from more than 20 meters, covered in iron armor. Boom! He fell heavily to the ground. Even with his physical constitution, his feet were numb as soon as he landed. He saw corpses scattered everywhere. The soldiers who had followed him along the way were all dead. Even military Dr. Wang Hao died tragically on the spot. A hole. I'm going to kill you. Zhou Tao was furious, quickly identified the direction of the gunshot, and rushed straight over. Jiang Fan was not afraid, not willing to take risks. Is not willing to take risks. Now that we have taken action, we must eradicate the root cause. In all likelihood, the opponent has already guessed that he is living up there, so he cannot escape and must kill them all. Jiang Fan threw the sniper rifle into the portable space and took out a huge wall-breaking hammer. Bring it on, Iron BD, try it head-on with me. Blood bursts out, 200%. Jiang Fan felt his whole body's strength surge. He spotted Zhou Tao's position and jumped straight down. The hammer was like a black lightning, quickly hitting Zhou Tao. Die to me. Zhou Tao didn't know Jiang Fan's location, so he just rushed in the general direction. Suddenly, a strong gust of wind came from overhead, extremely fast. Can't escape. Zhou Tao was shocked and quickly raised his hands to resist Duong. The hammer hit his hands hard. Jiang Fan's body was also bounced into the air. Zhou Tao's armor perfectly distributed the power, transmitting most of the huge force into the ground under his feet. However, even if a small amount of power penetrates into Zhou Tao's body, it is not something he can bear. Jiang Fan's comprehensive physique is 211, and if it is 200% enhanced, it will be 633. Zhou Tao felt a sharp pain in his hands, as if he had been hit by a train, and then a huge force was transmitted to his body. The huge shock made him dizzy and his vision went dark. Puff! A mouthful of blood spurted out, but it was blocked by the armor, covering his mouth and nose, making it impossible to breathe. He quickly removed the armor from his mouth and nose and coughed violently. Cough, cough, cough. After Jiang Fan's comprehensive physical fitness was strengthened to 633, his reaction speed also increased to an incredible level. As soon as he saw an opportunity, he hurriedly activated his superpower. As his hands and feet could not attack the enemy condensation, a large ball of water instantly covered Zhou Tao's mouth and nose. Zhou Tao took off his armor just to vomit blood and take a breath, but suddenly a ball of water rushed to his face, and he took a big gulp. Zhou Tao's eyes turned red. Cough, cough, cough. He choked and coughed violently. Jiang Fan was unreasonable and fell to the ground, followed by another horizontal hammer, hitting Zhou Tao's abdomen like an explosion. Duong! Puff! Zhou Tao sprayed blood and flew backwards, breaking 2 big trees. This Iron BD is so hard, Jiang Fan thought in his heart, and as soon as he landed on the ground, he exploded with all his energy. A ghostly maneuver followed Zhou Tao's body and rushed over. A bolt of lightning flashed across Jiang Fan's body. He raised the hammer high and smashed it down, shouting, "Die!" Zhou Tao was shocked. Despite the severe pain, he also knew that he would never be able to withstand this blow. The armor is still fine, but the body can no longer bear it. This enemy looks just like a humanoid Tyrannosaurus. In mid-air, he tried his best to stretch out a hand and aim at Jiang Fan's third ability. Activate. Click. Jiang Fan was instantly frozen in a large mass of ice, unable to move. Zhou Tao finally breathed a sigh of relief and said angrily, "I'm going to kill you." He took a few quick breaths to catch his breath. He knew that the ice he created was so strong that the enemies trapped inside could never escape. Zhou Tao stared at the scene in front of him with wide eyes. The enemy actually walked out of the ice openly, like an illusory shadow. Zhou Tao was dumbfounded. Jiang Fan turned off the blur as soon as he came out of the ice. Mental shock. A terrifying mental storm swept through Zhou Tao's body. His whole body was not well, as if he had eaten all night long. His face quickly turned pale. Then, poof, a mouthful of blood spurted out. No matter how uncomfortable he felt, he immediately forcibly closed the mask. This enemy is so terrifying. Then, the most horrifying scene appeared. The enemy quickly stretched out a hand towards his body and the hand passed through the iron armor. The big hand grabbed his heart and squeezed it hard. Zhou Tao's face turned pale. Puff. Blood spurts out. He fell to the ground and became unresponsive. Chapter 110. Academician Guo's Inference. Wu Jun heard Zhou Tao's screams and quickly shouted into the headset, "Colonel Zhou! Colonel Zhou!" Zhou Tao didn't respond for a long time. Wu Jun knew something was wrong and shouted on the radio in horror, "Everyone, run!" The enemy is too strong. Boom, boom, boom. The gunfire rang out again. One after another the radio channel was filled with screams. Run! The enemy can see far away in the red mist. Stop hiding. He's coming after him. He's coming after him. Ah, no. Don't kill me. Help. Woo. Jun's scalp was numb and he didn't dare to get any closer. His fighting ability was similar to that of most soldiers. Now he was just delivering food. He turned into a bat, activated his invisibility ability at the same time, and quietly flew to the location where Zhou Tao screamed last. Soon, Wu Jun found Zhou Tao's body. Zhou Tao was bleeding from all his orifices and his eyes were wide open, as if he had seen something terrifying. The iron armor covering Zhou Tao's body was probably the cause of his death. The pieces were cracked and dull. In particular, the two armor plates on both hands and forearms were twisted and deformed, with a large dent in them. There was also a big hammer thrown on the ground, and the hard hammer head was smashed out of shape. Colonel Zhou, Wu Jun cried out sadly, took off Zhou Tao's identity card and held it tightly in his hand, then picked up the hammer and flew away in a hurry. In the red mist, Guo Changting and Li Qingyu's minds went blank. In just a few minutes, all their teammates were dead. Even the physically powerful Zhou Tao and the invincible Kong Yongzhen are dead. Snap, snap, the sound of footsteps came from deep in the red mist. The two looked over in horror. A young and handsome man walked over indifferently, stepping on a pool of blood. Li Qingyu said tremblingly, You. Who are you, Jiang? Fan looked at the female officer and said calmly, It seems that you haven't figured out the current situation yet. Now shut up and let me ask you questions. The system prompt pops up. Li Qingyu, age 28, quality 8.5 points, heroic and heroic, women's virtue 10 points, not considered human affairs, comprehensive score 8.5 points, Ling meets system requirements. If Li Qingyu hadn't met the system requirements, Jiang Fan would have killed her long ago. He wouldn't leave a hostile superpower behind because of his kindness, but if he could gain the opponent's ability, Jiang Fan was willing to take some risks. Li Qingyu's will and ability to control metal plates made Jiang Fan very excited. Jiang Fan said, walked forward, reached out and took the gun from Li Qingyu's waist. Li Qingyu was trembling all over and did not dare to resist at all. Snapped. Jiang Fan loaded the bullet and pointed it at the silent Guo Changting. And who are you? He just discovered that even if this group of people ran away, they were still vaguely protecting this person. Guo Changting was shocked. Young man, don't be impulsive. Li Qingyu quickly said, Don't kill academician Guo. He is an academician. An academician in the field of biology. Our country's leader in the field of biology. Only academician Guo can end this evolutionary apocalypse. This is the hope of mankind. Academician, Jiang Fan frowned slightly at this moment. He sensed the Batman flying to Zhou Tao's body, seeming to be checking something, but Jiang Fan pretended not to see it. The clothing of this group of people is similar to that of the people at the TV station base, and most likely they are also from the TV station base. Jiang Fan and the other party have already become enemies. In this case, they will not stop. However, there were too many superpowers in the base, and Jiang Fan did not dare to rush in rashly. If you put a bat back, the enemy will naturally send people to retaliate. As long as those superpowers leave the base, Jiang Fan will have a huge advantage. The red mist that blocks the view is naturally Jiang Fan's home field. Jiang Fan watched the bat fly away, not anxious at all, and sat down leisurely. Academician Guo, do you think this apocalypse is a natural disaster or man-made? Guo Changting was stunned. He didn't expect that after killing a group of people, this young man could still calmly ask himself questions among the piles of corpses. This kind of person is born for troubled times. Li Qingyu was extremely frightened. Jiang Fan casually took out 2 bottles of pure water from the space, handed them to the two of them, and said with a smile, Don't be nervous. It's useless to be nervous anyway, right? Come on, drink some water and speak slowly. Guo Changting is an ordinary person. He is old and weak and poses no threat to Jiang Fan. Li Qingyu has 2 abilities in total. One ability is a transportation type auxiliary ability. The other ability is most likely of the will type. What Jiang Fan is least afraid of is the will type superpower coupled with the perspective effect of perception. These 2 people pose no threat to Jiang Fan at all. Only then could Jiang Fan calmly chat with Guo Changting. Guo Changting couldn't understand how this man could be so calm in the red mist, but he still sorted out his thoughts and said, I tend to think it's man-made. Jiang Fan asked curiously, Oh, why? At this time, A huge black cat jumped out and lay on the branch looking at the three people. Li Qingyu and Guo Changting's breathing stopped. Jiang Fan just glanced at it lightly. This cat had no special powers, and its body was far less bright than his own. Jiang Fan was confident that he would beat it into Pig's head, so he casually said, "It's okay, it's just a cat, leave him alone." Li Qingyu said fearfully, Can we find a room and say, it's too dangerous outside, without the protection of Zhou Tao and the soldiers, the dense forest would be extremely dangerous for Li Qingyu." Jiang Fan said with a smile, "Don't worry, if what he says dissatisfies me, I will throw your bodies here to avoid making the whole room full of blood. Come on, academician Guo, continue." Li Qingyu trembled. She didn't feel that the other party was intimidating her because the other party just killed a group of people. Guo Changting also turned pale and said quickly, "I inferred it from the effects of various powers." Jiang Fan asked, "Oh? How to infer?" Guo Changting said quickly, "Because so far, all the supernatural effects I have seen are beneficial to myself. In fact, the real biological evolution is random mutation, and 99.99% of the mutations are harmful to individual organisms. Only a very small number of lucky people can obtain mutations that are beneficial to themselves, thereby taking an advantage in the competition for survival and having more advantages. We have a high probability of reproducing offspring and passing on beneficial mutations on a large time scale. This is beneficial evolution. In fact, evolution is a pile of corpses of individual organisms. Paranormal abilities are completely different. Regardless of why the supernatural fruits can cause biological mutations and acquire all kinds of abilities. The most critical doubt is that all supernatural powers are actually beneficial. So, I strongly believe that this is a man-made, deliberately caused disaster." Li Qingyu was stunned. She has been using her powers for so long, but she has never thought about it this way. It turns out it's man-made. Jiang Fan sighed. He has always had a vague feeling that this red mist is not innocent. It's just that we can't make such a reasonable inference as Guo Changting. It's just pure speculation. It is possible to analyze useful information from such scarce information. Academicians still have two brushes. Jiang Fan asked again, "Do you think it was caused by humans themselves, or by some kind of conscious, unknown intelligent creature?" Chapter 111 Academician Guo, "Do you want to keep a whole body?" Guo Changting said firmly, "It must not have been done by humans. I am very clear about the biotechnology levels of countries around the world. Red mist and evolution are definitely not something modern human technology can achieve, so, I think the red mist is caused by aliens." Aliens? Li Qingyu felt so ridiculous that she couldn't even care about being afraid and retorted, "Academician Guo, where are the aliens you mentioned? Why haven't I seen them?" Guo Changting sighed. "An intelligent race that can cross the vast starry sky and come to the earth when they want to be invisible. Why should you find them? Just like when we set up cameras in the wild to observe wild animals, can wild animals detect humans? Even if the camera is placed in front of wild animals, they don't understand what it is." Jiang Fan nodded in agreement. "That makes sense. I can't even bear to kill you, huh?" Guo Changting hesitated. Jiang Fan pondered for a moment and said, "How about you do it with me from now on?" In order to survive, Guo Changting hurriedly said, "Sir." "No problem." Jiang Fan saw that the red light on Guo Changting's body was very dazzling. Without even a trace of yellow light, Jiang Fan was speechless. "Academician Guo, you are not sincere?" Guo Changting waved his hands in panic and said, No, sir, don't think too much. I am really willing to work for you." Unfortunately, the red light on his body cannot fool anyone. Jiang Fan was very disappointed and said again, "Otherwise, if you think about it carefully, I can provide you with superior research treatment, and even help you find a group of researchers to assist you." Guo Changting was about to cry. "No problem. Absolutely no problem. You can say whatever you want me to study. Really, I won't lie to you. It's a pity that it is still dazzlingly red." Jiang Fan sighed. "Do you want to keep a whole body?" Guo Changting's heart skipped a beat. Just as he was about to speak, a bloodline appeared on his neck. Jiang Fan shook off the bloody dagger. "Old guy, quite sinister." Plop. Guo Changting's body fell to the ground. Li Qingyu's mind went blank. The big academician who he worked so hard to save is just gone. She stared at Jiang Fan sadly and angrily. "You have personally destroyed the hope of human civilization. You are the sinner of the entire human race." Jiang Fan grabbed her hair, pulled her in front of him, stared at her and said every word. "First of all, the sinner of mankind is the creator of the red mist, which has nothing to do with me. Secondly, Guo Changting himself said that species that can cross the vast starry sky and come to the Earth are beyond the capabilities of human technology. Since he can't solve the problem, then why should I keep him? Facing the unknown and mysterious enemy, Jiang Fan is more willing to trust his own system than Guo Changting and human technology. At last, Jiang Fan suddenly pressed Li Qingyu's face into the dirt. You damn BCH my prisoner. Why are you talking to me, Li? Qingyu struggled and coughed. Ahem. Let me go, humph. Jiang Fan snorted coldly, tore open the portal and walked in carrying Li Qingyu in the blink of an eye. We arrived at the space capsule a few hundred meters away. Jiang Fan threw Li Qingyu to the ground. A group of women gathered around and asked curiously, "This is also a new sister?" "He's actually an officer. She is so thin. She must be very hungry. It's quite beautiful. Haha, if you're not pretty, can Brother Jiang like her?" Li Qingyu looked around blankly. The shiny floor, the beautiful and healthy woman, the tidy room, and the table filled with delicious food. It brought her back to the civilized era in a trance. This, Jiang Fan clapped his hands in disgust. Li Qingyu had been trekking in the dense forest for so long without taking a shower. There was an unpleasant smell on her body, and hair oil on your skin is also unpleasant. He pointed at Tang Zhao and Hu Lili and said, "You two take Li Qingyu to take a bath and give her a good rub. If she is dishonest, don't be polite and beat her hard." Tang Zhao and Hu Lili both have physique-enhancing powers, and their physical fitness is far stronger than that of ordinary women. Li Qingyu had no ability to resist. Tang Zhao said knowingly, "I'll send you to your room after washing." Jiang Fan nodded. "Well, I'll go there after I have a meal." "No." Li Qingyu finally understood what was going to happen to her and screamed, "Let me go." "You are so ridiculous," snapped Jiang Fan. Slapped her unceremoniously, knocking her unconscious. Su Menqian sneered and said with great experience, "Brother Jiang, give him a good beating and you'll be honest." She had been through it herself and knew Jiang Fan's methods towards women. If you are honest and obedient, you will never be abused, but if you dare to resist, it will be difficult to say. Jiang Fan never showed mercy when he killed women, not to mention a beating. Li Qingyu still wanted to struggle, but found that the two beauties around him were incredibly strong and were soon crushed to the point of being unable to move. She was shocked and said, You also have superpowers?" Tang Zhao just looked cold. Hu Lili said sternly, "Every woman here has more than one superpower." Li Qingyu was stunned. Everyone gathered around, laughing and watching the fun. They are safe here, but also very bored. It's also tiring to fight with other women every day. Every time a new sister comes, everyone will have something new to talk about, and it will be lively for a while. Zhang Zilin is familiar with the environment in the base, and at the same time she also wants to see how the three survivors she brought, Li Lingling, Lin Yan, and Wang Jianhua, are doing. She walked around the base, and everywhere she went, the soldiers and superpowers were all polite. Yesterday, a beautiful woman with double powers came, and the legend has spread that she knocked down Major General Jia with one punch. As everyone knows, Zhang Zilin has obtained a new power fruit and is about to become a grade A power user and be promoted to Major General. Everyone wanted to fawn over the new star of the base. Zhang Zilin came to the area where ordinary survivors lived and worked. There were obviously a lot less lights around, and the tunnel was very dim, and I could barely see the road. The survivors who passed by were all wearing gray overalls, with pale faces and numb eyes. They moved in groups, followed by soldiers with live ammunition, staring at them warily. Zhang Zilin's beautiful eyes wrinkled. It seems that the relationship between superpowers, soldiers and ordinary survivors is not harmonious. After a while, she saw a supervisor in blue and asked, "I want to find 3 survivors, Li Lingling, Lin Yan, and Wang Jianhua. They came with me. Can you tell me where they live?" The supervisor in blue immediately recognized Zhang Zilin and said flatteringly, "Hello, Major General Zhang. I am Hu Dui, Deputy Director of the Engineering Team. It's a coincidence that you ask. Wang Jianhua is in our engineering team, and Lin Yan is in the handyman team." "Handyman?" Zhang Zilin frowned. "What about Li Lingling?" "Who?" Dui smiled apologetically and said, "Oh, she violated the rules and tried to attack the guards, and she was shot dead." "Kill." Zhang Zilin opened her eyes in disbelief. "Li Lingling is dead." Chapter 112. The truth about the survivors of the base. Hu Dai smiled and said, "This is an ironclad order from Director Je. Any survivor who tries to attack the guards will be shot immediately. Of course, Director Je has no choice in troubled times. Heavy rules are used. With so many survivors and so little supplies, if there are no more rules, The base has long been in chaos. I support Director G's order with both hands, Zhang Zilan silently clenched her fists after spending so much effort. I finally brought Li Lingling to the base. I originally thought she would be able to have a stable life result. Dead. What? Hudawi said. Why do you raise your hands to support it? What a fart. Zhang Zilan is not a 3-year-old child. She has also worked in the police station for a while and is used to seeing this kind of veteran. Of course you support it. You are a vested interest. It is right to use heavy codes in troubled times, but they are also aimed at thugs. Since the survivors have joined the base, they are people who yearn for order. How can they be shot directly? Zhang Zilan felt cold in her heart. For the first time, she felt that she was right or wrong in bringing the survivors to the base. So, if so many people died along the way, wouldn't their deaths be in vain? Moreover, these people came here after listening to what he said. Didn't he become an accomplice? Hudai saw Zhang Zilan's expression was wrong and was secretly worried. Are Li Lingling and Zhang Zilan related? Major General Zhang, Li Lingling and you, Zhang Zilan shook her head. It doesn't matter. Who? Dai immediately breathed a sigh of relief. He was disdainful in his heart. It was probably Zhang Zilan who came with Li Lingling. Suddenly he heard that Li Lingling was shot, and he was shocked. Women are so indecisive. Hudai sighed fakely. Alice. Major General Zhang, don't be too sad. There is no rule without rules. Li Lingling dared to attack the guards as soon as she entered the base. I don't even dare to think about what she will do after a long time. That woman is born to be an undisciplined person. Staying at the base is also a disaster. Zhang Zilan frowned and said coldly, take me to see Lin Bian and Wang Jianhua. Who? Dai immediately knew that he had said the wrong thing and shut up quickly. He didn't want to make Zhang Zilan unhappy, so he found an excuse and ran away slippery. Zhang Zilan snorted, if you don't take me there, I'll find it myself. Zhang Zilan checked in the survivor area. She saw groups of gray-clad survivors, and the more she looked, the more frightened she became. All of them looked malnourished, sallow and thin, and they were obviously eating poorly. Moreover, his mental complexion was very poor, with a heavy sense of exhaustion on his face. At this time, a group of gray-clothed survivors walked by. They had a strong stench on their bodies and looked like they were worse off than dead. Zhang Zilan suddenly saw an acquaintance in the team, who turned out to be Lin Bian. After not seeing each other for just one day, Lin Bian, who was originally pretty and handsome, was now disheveled and lifeless. Zhang Zilan immediately shouted, Lin Tian. Lin Bian, Lin. Xianzhang was walking with heavy steps when he suddenly heard Zhang Zilan's voice. When he looked up, he was overjoyed and cried, Sister Zhang. Save me quickly. They tortured me. They made me take out shit, and they made me work all night without being able to rest, and I also had to eat shit. Woo woo woo. Thinking of the hard work that night, Lin Bian felt so wronged and sad that he burst into tears. He is new here. Not only are the soldiers and managers oppressing him, but even the old survivors and handymen are bullying him. He has to do the heaviest work, and he has to be insulted by everyone. He has never suffered this kind of punishment since he was born. After one night, Lin Bian was exhausted and felt like he was falling apart. He thought he could go back to rest, but he was assigned a new job. He had to work for at least 4 hours, and Lin Bian's mentality collapsed. Taking out shit? Eating shit? Zhang Zilan frowned. This is too outrageous and cannot be believed at first sight. The leader of the soldiers escorting the survivors saw Zhang Zilan and said with a smile, Hello, Major General Zhang. How come everyone knows me and still calls me Major General? Zhang Zilan said helplessly, What's going on? Is what he said true? The soldier leader curled his lips and said, Don't listen to this kid's nonsense. Let him grow mutated shepherd's purse. It smells a bit stinky, but that stuff is their staple food. How can it be shit? Another mutated shepherd's purse? Zhang Zilan frowned slightly. It seems that many survivors found this thing edible in this way. This mission is not too outrageous. Although the work pressure is a bit high, there is nothing I can do about it. Given the current living environment, the base's supplies are limited, and Zhang Zilan can't say anything. Zhang Zilan asked again, How many meals do they eat a day? What do they eat? The soldier leader smiled and said, How many more meals? Just one a day. Just eat mutated shepherd's purse. Anyway, this thing is quite nutritious, but it tastes a bit unpleasant and the texture is terrible. Haha. The soldier laughed gleefully. Zhang Zilan said incomprehensibly, One meal? Just one meal after doing so much work? And if you eat mutated shepherd's purse every meal, aren't there any other side dishes? At least there must be compressed biscuits, right? The soldier leader pouted, HMPH. How can people like them eat compressed biscuits? That's our food, eh? Group of gray-clothed survivors heard this and waited for the soldier leader with hatred. The soldier leader immediately picked up his gun and glared. What are you looking at? If you look again, I'll pluck out your eyeballs. After saying that, he kicked the nearest survivor, causing him to scream in agony. Stop. Just say it, don't do anything. Zhang Zilin immediately stopped the soldier and said angrily, they are also our compatriots. How can you deal with them like this? The soldier leader did not dare to refute Zhang Zilin, but just cursed in his heart. Grass, why do you, a high-level executive, care about a group of garbage survivors? Don't you have nothing to do? This damn thing is the end of the world. Do you know the end of the world? It's good if you can survive. What more do you ask for? Lin Dian was dragged away by two soldiers while wailing. Zhang Zilin was helpless. She couldn't snatch the person away by force, could she? That's so out of character. The purpose of her coming here is to return to order instead of breaking the rules here. She firmly believes that only order can save everyone. Zhang Zilin searched for a while but couldn't find Wang Jianhu, but she saw more tragic things. Injured and sick survivors were left to die in a room without treatment. He was not quick at work and was often beaten and scolded. Soldiers like to hit people with the butts of their rifles. Once they hit people, they would be covered in black and blue. Dozens of people live like dogs in Detongbu. Underground in summer, it is hot and stuffy, making it almost impossible to sleep, not to mention eating mutated shepherd's purse every day. It's not enough. Zhang Zilin had known for a long time that the problems at the base might be huge, but she didn't expect it to be so big. Now the entire base is like sitting on a powder keg, and the anger of ordinary survivors towards the soldiers and superpowers is like dynamite, which will explode sooner or later. Zhang Zilin thought of Jiang Fan's behavior again. He was unwilling to recruit more survivors. I felt even more angry. People outside are suffering, so forget it. Once you get to the base, you will be exploited at all levels. She left quickly with a cold face and decided to have a chat with Jiang Fan. This kind of world is definitely not the world I want. Chapter 113. Bureaucrats? No, Director Jie was deceived by the people below. Zhang Zilin walked outside Jiang Fan's office and was stopped by a good-looking female secretary outside the door. She said seriously, is Director Jie here? I want to talk to him. Female Secretary Qiru stared at Zhang Zilin's beautiful cheeks jealously and said with a cold face, sorry, you don't have a reservation and can't enter. She recognized the female superpower who had just entered the base at a glance, both powerful and beautiful, so unfair. She even heard that several high-status officers and supernatural beings had taken a liking to Zhang Zilin and were preparing to pursue her. Qiru became angrier as she thought about it. Why do all the good things belong to this BCH? I can only guard the dead old man Jiang Fan. Zhang Zilin frowned and looked at the female soldier in front of her. She was emitting a dazzling red light. The nameplate says Qiru. Zhang Zilin didn't know why Qiru was so hostile to her, but she still said patiently, Secretary Qi, please inform me. I want to see Director Jie as soon as possible. Qiru said proudly, please register here. The specific time will be decided by Director Jie. I cannot promise you. Zhang Zilin was secretly annoyed, but there was nothing she could do. The 7th-rank official under the Prime Minister's sect. Zhang Zilin can't afford to offend. Okay. I'm registering. Where's it? Qiru smiled and took out a visitor application form and said, just here, write down your name, identity, and reason. Director Jie will arrange the time according to the priority of different things, basically ranging from 3 to 7 days. 3 to 7 days. Zhang Zilin almost didn't curse. She didn't want to wait a day. I'm in a hurry. Can you hurry up? Qiru felt happy when she saw Zhang Zilin's expression. I know you are in a hurry, but this kind of thing has to go through a process. The director of the office has to review whether your matter is important. The director of the security department has to review whether the visitors are safe. And finally, Director Jie himself has to set a time for the interview. Director Jie, the work is very heavy, and you can't immediately put down what you're doing when someone comes to visit, right? Damn bureaucrats. Zhang Zilin almost couldn't control the anger in her heart. She could only squint her eyes and clenched her fists hard. She became increasingly suspicious of whether her choice to join the base was a mistake. This place was completely different from what she had imagined. When people face disasters, they not only fail to unite to resist external dangers. Instead, 3 distinct classes were formed. The first is the ruling class of senior superpowers, senior military officers, and senior R&D personnel headed by Jiang Fan. Secondly, there are the backbone of ordinary superpowers, soldiers, and ordinary R&D personnel. Finally, There are thousands of survivors who are at the bottom and live extremely difficult lives. Qiru was not afraid at all when she saw Zhang Zilin's white clenched fists, but was very excited. What happened to the grade A superpowers? If I don't let you in, you can't get in. How? Do you still dare to take action? Zhang Zilin endured it again and again, and finally endured it. She wrote the application on the application form with a livid face. Is this okay, Qiru took the application form gracefully and took a look. Where's the contact address? Write it down, otherwise where will we notify you? Zhang Zilin almost cursed. It's a small base with a few thousand people in total, and high-level psychics all live in the same area. You still want to contact me for the address? Zhang Zilin wrote down her room number with a cold face. Qiru then placed the application form at the bottom of a pile of documents with satisfaction and said, okay, let's go back and wait for the notification. Zhang Zilin looked at the thick pile of documents angrily. With so many documents, when will it be her turn? She suppressed her temper and asked in a good voice, can you please help me hurry up? Qiru took out the nail scissors and polished her nails, and said leisurely, oh, Miss Zhang, you're making things difficult for me. I'm just a small soldier, so it's not my turn to speak on such a big matter. Zhang Zilin couldn't bear it anymore, so she turned around and left. She walked outside the door without leaving, but found a seat in the corner and waited. Follow the rules and wait. Who knows how long it will take? It's better to just sit back and wait here. As long as Jiang goes out, she can stop him. Zhang Zilin waited for more than an hour and saw a guard coming out, holding a pile of waste paper and throwing it into the trash can. When the guard saw Zhang Zilin, he quickly showed his kindness and said, Major General Zhang. Hello. Zhang Zilin frowned and asked, are these documents confidential? Do they not need to be shredded? The guard smiled and said, what is there to keep secret? It's just a visitor application form written by people who don't know the importance of it. Who needs to write these things if they can really meet Director Jia? The ones who wrote these will never be seen. Haha, what? Visitor application form? Zhang Zilin felt a rush of blood rushing to her forehead. She kicked over the trash can and started rummaging through the garbage regardless of the dirt. The guard was stunned and hesitated for a while before saying, Major General Zhang, what are you looking for? Can I help you? No. Need. Zhang Zilin's face turned pale. After a while, she found the visitor application form she had just written, and her face turned red with anger. Zhang Zilin was filled with anger and could no longer control it, and rushed straight into the room. Boom! She kicked a big hole in the door, and the door banged against the wall. Ah! Qiru screamed in fright. The loud noise alerted the guards. A group of superpowers and soldiers immediately rushed in from the next door. What happened? Put your hands up. The leader of the superpowers recognized Zhang Zilin and said in surprise, huh? Is it Major General Zhang? Are you? Boom! Zhang Zilin ignored the others, slapped the application form heavily on the table, and said with a cold face, Secretary Kui, please explain to me what is going on. Everyone looked down and saw that it was the visitor application form written by Zhang Zilin. Now everyone roughly guessed the reason. It was probably Qiru who was embarrassing Zhang Zilin, and they suddenly became entangled. One is the leader's pillow person, a grade A superpower who just entered the base and is highly valued by the leaders. How to deal with this kind of thing? They couldn't help but blame Qiru in their hearts. It's not good for you to offend anyone. Why offend Zhang Zilin? Qiru knew something was wrong as soon as she saw the application form, and screamed angrily, hurry! Catch her quickly! What are you waiting for? She wants to rebel? Everyone was speechless. This has nothing to do with rebellion, it's just that you went too far. Just forget about making things difficult for others. Who is Zhang Zilin? The base's 5th grade A superpower, the super combat power that knocked down Jia Mengxuan with one punch. Do you even dare to mess with her? The guards hesitated. No one is a fool. How dare they interfere in the fight between these two women? Zhang Zilin was not too angry about Qiru's actions. She knows that there are villains everywhere and this is inevitable. However, Qiru dared to throw away the visitor application forms in piles, indicating that this matter had been going on for a long time. It shows that some senior officials deliberately concealed negative information from Jia Shanyu. Director Jia has been deceived by the people below. He must have no idea what those survivors are suffering. The base has reached the edge of great danger. But these people are whitewashing the peace and deceiving the top leadership of the base. When Qiru saw that the situation was not good, she turned around and ran away, preparing to find Jia Shanyu to support herself. How dare you run? Zhang Zilin shouted angrily. She casually picked up a pen from the table and threw it at Qiru under her great strength. The pen was like a sharp dagger, piercing into Quiru's calf with a pop. Ah! Quiru screamed and fell to the ground when she saw the blood on her legs. She screamed in horror. Help! Kill someone! Everyone looked at each other, at a loss at this moment. There was a click and the door inside opened. Jiang walked out with a cold face. Have you had enough trouble? Chapter 114. The most powerful power in the world is to control people's hearts. When Quiru saw Jiang, it was like seeing a savior. Director Jack, save me. She wants to kill me. It doesn't matter if you kill me. This is a slap in your face. This is rebellion. Everyone was defeated by Quiru's shamelessness. Where are all these things from my mother-in-law? Jiang was also very dissatisfied, but he frowned and glanced at Quiru, who was lying on the ground. His calf was dripping with blood, and he still felt a slight pain in his heart. Although Quiru is only average in appearance, her skin and beautiful legs are top-notch. It is Jiang's favorite toy. This is just great. Even after the treatment, scars will be left on the legs, and they may even become lame. My beloved toy is gone. No matter how angry Jiang is, he knows that he can't get angry at will. At least he can't punish a powerful superpower in public because of a beloved woman. Otherwise others will be wary of him. Grass. Damn superpowers. Secretary. Shut up. Don't talk nonsense. Jiang scolded, and then called out, where's the doctor? He hasn't taken Secretary Qui away for treatment yet, eh? Doctor hurried forward, did a brief inspection, and then led several nurses to drag Quiru away. After the shrew left, the scene became quiet. Jiang then looked at Zhang Zilin and said, Zhang Zilin, what do you want to do? Your behavior is unorganized and undisciplined. If everyone behaves like you, do you still have to do your work? Why don't you just suffer a little grievance? As a cadre, you can't stand such a little grievance. Let me put more burden on you in the future. This series of fights put all the blame on Zhang Zilin, and even hinted that he wanted to promote you, but you performed so poorly that people around him couldn't say anything. Many people think that what Jiang said is correct in any case. Fighting outside the leader's office is a taboo within the Dragon Kingdom system, and it's really not worth taking such a big deal. Many people think Zhang Zilin is a bit too impulsive. There are only a few shrewd people who are disdainful. In Jiang's words, he completely disgraced himself and never mentioned leadership responsibilities without his deliberate indulgence. Quiru would dare to be so arrogant and throw away the visitor's application. Of course, those who can react instantly are all human beings, and they will not refute Jiang's face on such occasions. Sure enough, these words made Zhang Zilin feel very aggrieved. She was not a power expert to begin with. Facing an opponent of Jiang's level, she was helpless. She could only say helplessly, I admit my mistakes and am willing to accept punishment from the organization. However, I have something to say. Damn your brain. Jiang was angry. In fact, Zhang Zilin's actions today were secretly monitored by someone and reported to Jiang, including her conversation with Lin Yan. As soon as she finished speaking, someone reported in front of Jiang was a powerful newcomer. Jiang could not completely trust Zhang Zilin based on what Zhang Zilin saw and heard. Jiang had guessed what Zhang Zilin wanted to say. He was very reluctant to discuss these sensitive topics with Zhang Zilin in public. If he fails to reach an agreement, it will undermine his authority as a leader. But now that the matter has come to this, Jiang has no choice but to say, okay, you say it. We are very open here and can discuss anything. Zhang Zilin said with a sullen face, why does the base treat survivors so harshly and shoot them frequently? Silly woman. Jiang felt relieved and sneered secretly. Zhang Zilin is obviously a naive person who can ask such a question in public. This kind of problem involves the natural contradiction between the upper level and lower level survivors in the base. Those who can appear in this room now are all middle and upper class people. In other words, everyone here is born to stand with Jiang. Most people are not as philanthropic as Zhang Zilin, who fantasizes about saving all compatriots. They just want to live better and longer for themselves, and what happens to other people is none of their business. Therefore, by asking such a question, Zhang Zilin is giving Jiang a target to attack. Jiang said calmly, in troubled times, we must use heavy codes. We must nip any possibility of large-scale conflicts at the ignition stage. Think about who these survivors are. Good people? Wrong. It's the end of the world outside, and there isn't even much food. Every survivor who comes to the base alive has more or less human life in his hands. How can there be any here? Clean survivors. They are not good people. In the past, they were all murderers, robbers, rapists. They were all to be shot. If we let them run wild, they will easily arouse more people and cause riots. If we suppress them at that time, more people will die. I know that the Li Lingling you brought was shot on the first day, and you feel bad. However, she was shot as soon as she caused trouble, and she was the only one who died. If she was allowed to stir up trouble and suppress it, 10 people might die. 100 people. Moreover, every soldier is a valuable asset to the base, a friend and brother I have cultivated with my own hands. If they are killed by survivors because of my soft heart, I simply cannot forgive myself. Do you understand? Zhang Zilin. Do you understand? Jiang Fan became more and more excited as he spoke. He slapped his chest hard and his cheeks turned red. Zhang Zilin remained silent while Jiang Fan roared. Her mind was confused and she could not refute. Everyone watching felt that what Jiang Fan said made sense. Those survivors are basically murderers and should be shot. That is to say, Director Jie was benevolent and allowed them to stay at the base after considering practical problems. If it were me, I would have killed all these criminals long ago. Jiang Fan's face was extremely angry, but he was very proud in his heart. Zhang Zilin, with your modest skills, do you dare to interview me? Food. Everyone is a superpower, and no one is convinced by anyone. Jiang Fan, don't have 2 brushes to secure the position of director. What bullshit abilities, they're just support. No matter how good you are in fighting, you can only fight a few, but you are just a thug who is not on the stage. In any era, the most powerful force is to control people's hearts. As long as I can control most of the superpowers and make them obey my words, I will be the strongest person in this era. Jiang Fan was secretly proud, but on the surface he was upright and said, if you have any questions, I'll answer them in one go. Let's talk openly and honestly here. There's nothing shameful. Through the previous simple confrontation, Jiang Fan confirmed that Zhang Zilin was a noob and had nothing to fear, so he let go. Zhang Zilin really didn't know how to continue. The anger I felt just now was completely extinguished by Jiang Fan. It's not like she hasn't thought about the reason Jiang Fan said, but she feels that human life needs to be taken seriously no matter what, and people can't kill people hastily. But after hearing what Jiang Fan said, I actually felt that what he said made sense. This was considering the overall situation. Zhang Zilin just vaguely felt that something was wrong, but her mouth was stupid and her brain was slow to react, so she couldn't figure it out for a while. Zhang Zilin asked weakly, why did those survivors eat so poorly? Damn it. Jiang Fan was secretly happy and is giving himself a target again. He spoke righteously. This is the end of the world, and the pressure to survive is extremely high. Survivors only need to work honestly at the base, and there is no need to worry about their lives. People with superpowers and soldiers have to go out to perform tasks. They must eat well and maintain their physical strength so that they can survive at critical moments. Lost a chain. As for researchers eating well, I think everyone has no objection to this, right? Technology is the primary productive force. If we want to truly end this apocalypse, we can only rely on them. We big guys are just green leaves. These words were praised by all the middle and high-level people, and everyone at the scene felt very comfortable listening to them. Yes, I have to go out and work hard. What's wrong with eating better? As long as the survivors work at the base, they can live easily. How happy they are, seeing that the overall situation was under control. Jiang Fan relaxed completely and looked at Zhang Zilin calmly. Any more question? Chapter 115. The shocking news brought back by Wu Jun. Zhang Zilin could only bow her head helplessly. There is none left. Jiang Fan road, you injured a colleague and suffered minor injuries. I will punish you by confinement for 5 days. Your work points will be halved for 3 months. I will compensate Qiru for the reduced work points. Your conferment of Major General will be postponed until 3 months later. Is there any problem? Work points are the internal token implemented by the base. People with special abilities and soldiers can earn points by performing tasks. If you have enough points, you can exchange them for tobacco, alcohol, luxury goods and other supplies, or even for superpower fruits. Jiang Fan looked calm on the surface, but actually looked at Zhang Zilin nervously. If she refuses to accept confinement, she is being disobedient. No matter how powerful this kind of superpower is, Jiang Fan won't be able to use it. He will find an opportunity to kill Zhang Zilin in the future. If Zhang Zilin accepts incarceration, he is a good comrade who can be saved, and he just made a small mistake. Zhang Zilin frowned but nodded. Okay. I'll go to the confinement area by myself later. Jiang Fan breathed a sigh of relief, and some superpowers interceded with Zhang Zilin. Director Jack, is this too serious? There is a reason for what happened, and Secretary Kui was also at fault. How about, at this moment, a guard rushed in panic, his face extremely frightened. Director Jeff. Woojin is back, he said. When Jeshanyu heard that it was Woojun, he no longer cared about Zhang Zilin. What did you say? Don't hesitate, the guard said in shock. He said Major General Zhou Tao is dead. Zhou Tao is a relatively traditional soldier. He is not willing to accept Jeshanyu's appointment as Major General. In his team, he always asks everyone to call him Colonel, but at the base, most people still call him Major General Zhou. Everyone was stunned. How did Major General Zhou die? Because he was so strong. Did we encounter a powerful mutant animal? Shanyu immediately became anxious. Invite Woojun over quickly. Have a meeting immediately. Notify Major General Duan Zhen, Major General Jia Mengxuan, Major General Sun Wei, and Zhang Zilin that you can come too. After the meeting, we will confine you. Academician Wang also asked him to come over. There were only 5 grade A superpowers in the entire base, and the death of one of them would be extremely painful for him. Jeshanyu named a dozen senior executives at once. Soon, the conference room was filled with people. Woojun was also brought over. Everyone looked at him. Quickly tell me what's going on. What happened? Woojun said with a bitter face. According to the original plan, we successfully rescued Academician Guo Changting, and then went to the Pearl of the Demon CTV Tower, where we were ready to wait for the response from the base. As a result, when we arrived at the Pearl of the Demonic Sea, we found someone. Woojun described what he saw and heard in detail. Everyone was shocked. The Pearl of the Demonic CTV Tower actually hides a powerful person who can snipe people in the red mist. This man's melee combat ability is very strong. Even Zhou Tao can't defeat him. According to Woojun's description, Zhou Tao was killed within a few dozen seconds at most. The fighting power is extremely terrifying. This is the big hammer that killed Major General Zhou. Woojun took out the hammer. The deformation of the hammer head and the fingerprints of the hammer stick are clearly visible. Everyone was silent. This was such a powerful force that even a hammer couldn't bear it. The tip of Duan Zhen's nose trembled and he suddenly said, "Wait a minute, show me this hammer." Everyone didn't know why. Duan Zhen took the hammer, smelled it carefully, and then said bitterly, "That's him. The ground mouse who took away Hule. It's him." The crowd immediately became excited. Finally found his location. There is a way to heaven, but if you don't take it, there is no door to hell and you can break in. Was this done by Jiang Fan? Zhang Zilin was dumbfounded. Why did he go to the Pearl of the Demonic Sea? Now I'm in trouble. I couldn't find you before and couldn't get you to deal with you. What will happen in the future? Definitely come directly to your door. Where are you going? No matter how powerful Jiang Fan is, he can't deal with so many superpowers, and he can't even run away. Very good. Duan Zhen was even more delighted after hearing this. He originally wanted to go out to search, but now he didn't need to. He directly found the other party's lair. When Jeshanyu was angry, he began to analyze. This superpower is very powerful. It seems to have a variety of superpowers at the moment. The first is to burrow into the ground. This ability is very useful for escaping. The second is to travel long distances quickly. He snatched Hule from us at night and reached the Pearl of the Demon Sea a few kilometers away during the day. This shows that he has the ability to travel long distances. Considering that he makes his home in the Pearl of the Demon Sea, I think his ability is similar to Woojun, probably flying. Then, Woojun said that Zhou Tao bled to death from his 7 orifices. This ability is very similar to Wulei's ability. Mental shock can directly bypass the body's defense and hit the enemy's brain. It is also this ability that can restrain Zhou Tao. He also has huge strength. The hammerhead and hammer stick look very simple, and not many of us here can do this. Finally, he can snipe in the red mist, which shows that he has a certain ability to see through the red mist. In other words, this person has at least 5 abilities: burrowing into the ground, flying, attacking the brain, strength, and seeing through the red mist. What a powerful superpower. Shanyu sneered and praised the enemy, but in fact he was full of confidence. The biggest trouble in dealing with this kind of enemy that can burrow into the ground is actually finding the enemy. Now that we have found it, most of the task is completed. As for whether he could defeat the opponent, Jeshanyu never doubted. So what if there are 5 powers? We have more than 100 powers, and the total number of powers exceeds 150. No matter how strong you are on your own, you can still deal with 100 superpowers. The Silent Sun Wei added, I think he still has the ability to find superpower fruits, otherwise there is no way to explain how he found so many superpower fruits. Everyone nodded. After hearing this, they have all gone out on missions and know very well how difficult it is to act outside. Above the head are overwhelming trees, and below the feet are grass and shrubs that are at least knee-deep. Coupled with the red fog, the field of vision is extremely narrow. Moreover, both animals and humans eat supernatural fruits. Therefore, finding superpower fruits outside depends entirely on luck. If you can use your abilities to find superpower fruits, then Jeshanai was completely moved to control the opponent in your hands. How many superpower fruits must be found? Duan. Zhen, I order you to capture this superpower. I will give you 50 superpowers and 200 soldiers. You can recruit ordinary survivors at will. If you don't have one, you will be captured alive. Duan. Zhen is full of confidence. I let him take advantage of me last time with a sneak attack. This time I'm going to make him spit it out. So, what if it can walk through walls and fly? Learn about space blockade. Everyone became excited. Only Zhang Zilin frowned. Recruit ordinary survivors at will. Didn't you say before that survivors will not participate in outing missions? If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 116 Gravity Distortion. Flesh Flying. Ling. One day ago, Li Qingyu consumed a pack of compressed biscuits and returned 1,200 packs. It has been put into the carry-on space. Ling. 2 days ago, Li Qingyu consumed a can of military braised pork and returned 1,200 cans. It has been put into the carry-on space. Ling. 3 days ago, Li Qingyu consumed a pack of military mustard and returned 1,200 packs. It has been put into the pocket space. Ling. 14 days ago, Li Qingyu consumed one enlightenment fruit, weapon of will, and returned 1,200 of them. It has been put into the portable space. Ling. 19 days ago, Li Qingyu consumed an enlightenment fruit, gravity distortion, and returned 1,200 of them. It has been put into the portable space. Jiang Fan's eyes lit up. Sure enough, there were 2 superpowers, and one of them was related to will. Fruit of enlightenment, weapon of will. 1 star. After eating it, you can gain the ability to chain weapons together. Eating the same fruit repeatedly has a chance of improving the star rating. Enlightenment fruit, gravity distortion. 3 stars. After eating it, you can gain the ability to distort gravity. Eating the same fruit repeatedly has a chance of improving the star rating. Jiang Fan immediately took out an enlightenment fruit and ate it. Gravity distortion. 3 stars, you can distort the size and direction of gravity at will. It is only effective for metal objects you touch? I see, no wonder she was holding a rope to pull a string of metal plates. It turned out to be a bug connected by a rope. A string of metal plates is treated as an object by the superpower. Jiang Fan pointed at a heavy cabinet with his finger. Gravity twist. Soon, he discovered that he seemed to be able to control the direction and magnitude of gravity on the cabinet. At will, Jiang Fan's heart moved, and the cabinet slowly floated up. Not only can it move upward, but it can also exert forward gravity and backward gravity by reasonably controlling the direction and magnitude of gravity. Any direction is fine. In addition, controlling gravity will continue to consume physical strength, and the consumption rate is proportional to the change in the magnitude of gravity. Moreover, controlling the direction of gravity is 1 or 2 orders of magnitude more expensive than controlling the magnitude of gravity. With Jiang Fan's comprehensive physique of 200 plus, the cost of controlling the size of gravity is almost the same as nothing. Controlling the direction of gravity feels like running with all your strength. This ability can greatly enhance my melee combat ability. Jiang Fan raised his lips slightly. Imagine that if there is a piece of metal on the enemy, when you directly receive the enemy's attack, you can directly turn the metal's gravity upward, and the enemy's center of gravity will be greatly affected. And, if I carry metal on my body, wouldn't I be able to fly? As soon as he thought of it, Jiang Fan immediately took out a bundle of steel wire and held it in his arms. Gravity twist. Jiang Fan felt the steel wire suddenly jump upwards, and indeed it brought his feet up. It can really fly. Test successful. Jiang Fan was overjoyed. Although his physical strength is exhausted very quickly, it is completely acceptable with his physique. And flying for an hour is not a problem. Jiang Fan thought a little regretfully. It's a pity. If I don't have that armored man's ability, full body armor and gravity distortion would be a perfect match. Even if you don't have the armor ability, you can simply imitate it. Jiang Fan first took out a belt of the best quality from his pocket. and then wrapped wire around the belt until it became a heavy wire belt. Jiang Fan put on his belt. Gravity distortion activates. Jiang Fan's feet slowly left the ground. Ha ha ha, Jiang Fan was overjoyed. He tried it and soon discovered that this method of flying was a bit clumsy. There is only one stress point on the whole body, the belt, which is very inflexible and inconvenient for fighting. Jiang Fan thought for a while, then found a mechanical watch and put it on his left hand. A male bracelet is worn on the right hand. He took out another pair of marten boots, found two thin pieces of iron sheet, and inserted them into the soles of the shoes. Gravity twist. Jiang Fan activated his ability again, and the flight was obviously much easier this time. The 5 points of his hands, feet, and waist can provide gravity in various directions, giving him great flexibility. Disappear. Jiang Fan passed through the ceiling and slowly flew to the top of the space capsule. There is a helipad here at an altitude of several hundred meters. The wind was strong. Jiang Fan's body flew up, standing at an altitude of tens of meters, looking down at the entire Mohe city in a relaxed and comfortable manner. Flying has always been the dream of mankind. For this reason, humans invented airplanes. Although they can fly, they have many limitations. Now I can fly physically, flying plus virtualization plus teleportation. I can reach the vastness of the world. Jiang Fan flew in mid-air for a while, briefly adapted to his newly acquired flying ability, and then returned to the bedroom through the roof without saying a word. He took out another will weapon, enlightenment fruit, and swallowed it. Weapon of will. 1 star. You can spend energy to condense an indestructible weapon of will in your body. It must be condensed to a certain level before it can be used. Will plus 3. A constantly changing weapon appeared in Jiang Fan's consciousness space. One is blue, the other is green. Sometimes it's a sword, sometimes it's a gun. It looked like a phantom, and Jiang Fan couldn't take it out at all. Jiang Fan tried to invest some energy, but even with his 120 super high will, he felt emptiness deep in his soul, as if he hadn't slept in several days. The will weapon still hasn't changed much, and I don't know when the chain will be condensed before it can be used. No wonder Li Qingyu didn't attack herself with a weapon of will. She couldn't get out of the chain at all. At this time, Li Qingyu woke up and knew what had happened. When he looked at his body, her eyes were red. She covered her body with a towel and stared at Jiang Fan with anger and shame. Dirty. You will not die a good death. Jiang Fan glanced at her coldly. The superpower has been obtained, and there is no use keeping this woman. How about killing him? However, although this woman's words were unpleasant, the red light on her body was very light. Forget it, then I won't kill him. When the people from the TV station come to retaliate, they might be able to use her as a human shield or a hostage so that she can use her remaining energy. Snapped. Jiang Fan slapped Li Qingyu down and said calmly, "This is the end of the world. Who can die easily?" After saying that, he unceremoniously took out a bundle of ropes from his pocket and tied her hands and feet tightly together. Li Qingyu screamed angrily, "Wu Jun has escaped. The base will definitely send someone to rescue me. You are dead, BD. Let me go." Oh, up. Jiang Fan blocked Li Qingyu's mouth with his smelly socks, and then shouted, "Tang Zirao, Su Menqian, Hu Lily, come in." The 3 women walked in, and when they saw Li Qingyu's appearance, they all smiled as expected. Jiang Fan is not someone who is soft on women. Su Menqian, in particular, was unabashedly gloating about his misfortune for such a long time. She was the only one who was punished the most by Jiang Fan. The previous experience of kneeling outside the door had been secretly laughed at by the girls. Now it's better. I have company. Chapter 117. The Big Devil Standard Weapon? I like it. Jiang Fan glanced at the light on the 3 women. They are all very pure green light. Then he took out 3 pistols and handed them to the 3 women with confidence. Before the matter is over, the 3 of you will work in 3 shifts to keep an eye on her. If she resists, she will be killed directly. Li Qingyu whined with anger. Smelly man, you are so ruthless. Su Menqian happily took the pistol and stared at Li Qingyu eagerly. This is Brother Jiang's trust in me. Hu Lily carefully took the pistol. Her face turned pale with fright. I can't shoot. Tang Zirao was taken aback and said in horror, "What's the matter?" Jiang Fan was very calm. This group of people are from the military at the TV station base. The military will definitely retaliate later. You should leave for now and come back after I deal with them. Military. Tang Zirao became worried. Most people have an instinctive fear of the strength of the military. Brother Jiang, why don't we leave? In this era anyway, they can't find you. They can't find you wherever we go. Jiang Fan shook his head and smiled. How could I let a group of people who want to kill me live in the world? Li Qingyu was speechless. With a sneer on her face and a lot of moaning, Jiang Fan pulled out the smelly socks from her mouth with a smile. It looks like you have something to say, Li. Qingyu coughed a few times and then said harshly, HMPH. It's too late to leave now. Major General Duan has a very good nose. No matter which way you escape, he can catch up with you, Su. Mengqian said angrily, Brother Jiang, she is threatening you. Why are you still keeping her? Kill her, Jiang. Fan frowned. Although Li Qingyu's words were not pleasant, he told very crucial information. She actually revealed the abilities of a superhuman. Is he stupid, or are you deliberately misleading yourself? Jiang Fan looked at the light on Li Qingyu. There is still very little red light, most of it is yellow light, and there is even a little green light. Mada, is this BCH also a lunatic? I'm so aggressive and killing, but she turned green. Could it be she wants to surrender? Jiang Fan was no longer anxious now and asked, oh, who is Major General Duan? What other abilities does he have? Li Qingyu hesitated for a moment and said, I don't know, I only know that he has great close combat ability and is so fast that he can't see clearly. Another ability was mentioned. Jiang Fan was puzzled, stared at Li Qingyu with interest and said, you don't like the base, or you have a grudge against someone in the base, and want to use my help to get rid of someone, for example, this Major General Duan. Li Qingyu didn't expect to be guessed so soon, so she silently clenched her fists and said harshly, you're overthinking it, it's absolutely nothing, Jiang Fan said with a smile. In that case, how about I hand you and your paragraph over to the base, you. Li Qingyu looked at Jiang Fan in shock and said sadly and angrily, shame on you, a prize, a prize, a prize. Jiang Fan smiled, and then said coldly, I advise you to tell the truth. Otherwise, I will strip you naked and throw you to the nearest survivor settlement. Li Qingyu shuddered, no, do not want, then. Tell me. Jiang Fan calmly said, if it satisfies me, I might as well spare your life. As you can see, all the women here live a good life. Li Qingyu bit her red lips and said softly, I want Jiang to die. If he hadn't stopped Yang Shadows from sending troops to the city, my parents might have survived. Then, Li Qingyu revealed some secrets after the red mist descended. Although the country took no action on the surface, it has actually been actively preparing that new herbicide. Was the research result of the Longuo Academy of Sciences and was handed over to the military in various places for implementation. Unfortunately, everything evolved so fast that most herbicide spraying operations fail, and even if the spraying is successful, the plants quickly adapt and grow more lushly. The situation changed too quickly after that. Kyoto suddenly lost contact again, the entire top level disappeared, and the whole country turned into a complete mess. Before losing contact, the top management set up rescue centers across the country, with full responsibility for military affairs and management of the rescue work of all surrounding survivors. The rescue center, set up in Mohei City, is the underground base of the TV station. With Jiang serving as the top leader, the troops in Yang Shao's hands must also obey Jiang's command. Li Qingyu is a native of Mohei City. After the red mist fell, her parents were trapped at home and unable to leave. Her home is only a few kilometers away from the army station. As long as the army enters the city, they will definitely pass by her home along the way, and it is entirely possible to save her parents. However, Jiang has always strongly resisted Yang Shao's request to enter the city. Yang Shadows was unable to enter the city, and Li Qingyu's parents could not be saved in the end. The two lost contact and were most likely dead in this horrific apocalypse. How can two old people who are weak, powerless, and moneyless have any chance of survival? Li Qingyu kept this deep hatred in her heart without telling anyone, but secretly looked for opportunities to take revenge on Jiang. She knew she only had one chance to take action, so she never dared to act rashly. After Li Qingyu saw Jiang Fan's fighting prowess, she was immediately tempted. Anyway, I have been arrested and there is a high probability that I will not be able to go back, so I might as well give it a try. Jiang Fan was secretly happy. He never thought that such a good thing could happen. You want to kill Jiang? No problem, I want to kill him too. Write down all the superpower abilities you know. At this point, Li Qingyu can only choose to believe Jiang Fan. Okay. I hope you keep your promise. The three women escorted Li Qingyu to write information. Jiang Fan took out a will weapon fruit and swallowed it directly in his mouth. A war is coming, and we must improve our combat effectiveness as much as possible. 1 handful, 2 handfuls, 3 handfuls. Like the first 2 will-type abilities, Jiang Fan has excellent adaptability to will-type abilities, and the star level of his will-type weapons is quickly upgraded. Ling. The fruit of will has been upgraded to 2 stars, Ling. The will fruit has been upgraded to 3 stars, Ling. The will fruit has been upgraded to 4 stars. Jiang Fan was almost vomiting after eating, and finally stopped. Ling. The will fruit has been upgraded to 5 stars, weapon of will. 5 stars, you can spend energy to condense an indestructible weapon of will in your body, which must be condensed to a certain extent before it can be taken out. When the weapon of will is taken out, you can incorporate various materials to strengthen its attributes. When someone with abilities around you dies, you can swallow their will fragments to speed up the chain condensation speed of your will weapon, will plus 15. Incorporating material enhancing properties, the effect is unclear, so you can only wait until you take out the weapon and try again, but this murder speeds up the chain condensation. Jiang Fan pondered, it looks very evil. This is the standard weapon of the big devil. I like it. Just so happened that Jiang sent a group of cannon fodder. If we kill them all, I can pull out the weapon of will. Chapter 118 The army is dispatched. Jiang Fan looked at the superpower information provided by Li Qingyu. There are dozens of different abilities from combat to resistance, from melee combat to long-range attack, from detection to treatment. Everything is covered. If this group of people came together, Jiang Fan would really frown. This is the power of large organizations. Each superpower may not seem strong, but with appropriate matching, they can create a powerful combination. For example, Li Qingyu's gravitational distortion and the armored man are actually a perfect match. The base must have considered sending these two people out together. Li Qingyu said, I only know some of the abilities of these more than 30 people with powers. Others have either never cooperated with them, or they are very cautious and never talk nonsense outside. I don't know their abilities either. Jiang Fan closed his eyes and thought for a while, then said calmly, okay, I understand. You go first. He tore open a portal leading to Fortune Center community and took the girls back to Building C of Fortune Center. A few days passed, and the Wealth Center became even more dead. The survivors in Building C were basically killed by Jiang Fan. Another group of people starved to death in Buildings A and B, and a new leader probably emerged, but no one dared to come to Building C. Jiang Fan didn't show up for a few days, and those people couldn't figure out the situation, so they just stayed away. Li Qingyu actually enjoyed the quietness. No one bothered him after Jiang Fan used his senses to confirm that Building C was safe. He asked the women to tidy up the room again. Li Qingyu still lives on the 28th floor. Jiang Fan walked across the floor to Li Qingyu's room. Li Qingyu was startled, and then said with great joy, Mr. Jiang, are you back? Jiang Fan glanced at him, still glowing green, nodded and said with a smile, I'm back here temporarily for a few days. Are there any new developments here? Have you found any superpower fruits? Li Qingyu shook his head and sighed. It's getting more and more dangerous down there. Now even the 3rd and 4th floors can no longer guarantee safety. I don't dare to go down to the ground alone. Jiang Fan was curious. Oh? What should I say? This old Chinese medicine doctor has always liked to go downstairs to collect various new plants and try to discover new medicinal materials. Now even he is afraid of it. Li Qingyu sighed. I found that some plants have begun to actively attack humans. Animals can also defend themselves, but plants are really defenseless. He rolled up his trousers. Look, this hole was cut by a weed. Fortunately, you gave me a few bottles of medical alcohol and I disinfected it in time. Otherwise, I would definitely have been infected and inflamed. Weed. Jiang Fan didn't stay long, settled the woman, opened a portal, found the subspace anchor point on Zhang Zilin, and quietly passed it through. It is rude to come and go without reciprocating. Since you sent people to my house, it makes sense for me to go to your house to relax. Mohei TV Underground Base. The door is open today, everyone. Set out immediately. Jiang ordered. Yes. Duanzhen replied loudly. Set off. Groups of survivors wearing gray uniforms walked out of the base. They carried various supplies on their backs and walked heavily, with expressions of numbness and fear. They have a deep understanding of the terror of the dense forest in the red mist. If this were not the case, they would not rather be bullied by Jiang than escape. Now, the whole world is shrouded in red mist, and they have no way to escape. Followed by 200 elite soldiers, the mental state of this group of people was much better than came the 50 superpowers, all lightly armed and arrogant. This is almost half of the power of the base's superpowers and must be taken seriously. Jiang patted Duanzhen on the shoulder and said solemnly, I've handed over most of my family's fortune to you, so you must be careful, Duan. Jiang stood at attention and saluted. "Don't worry, Chief. I will never let you down. No matter how strong that rat is, he can't stop being surrounded by dozens of people. We have already made a plan, and he won't be able to use all his abilities." "That's good, Jiang." Shan Yu felt a little relieved. Duanzhen could still trust him this time. 2 of the 4 remaining Grade A superpowers were sent out. Duanzhen and Sun Wei Jiamengsun is guarding the house, while Zhang Zilin is still in solitary confinement. Then, "Let's go quickly. Don't let that kid run away, otherwise who knows where to find him." "Yes. Guarantee to complete the mission." Duanzhen set off with a large army this time, a total of 1,000 survivors, 200 soldiers, and 50 supernatural beings were used. This was the base's largest outing. Since the arrival of the red mist rather than catching the rat, it is better to say that Jia Shanai wanted to test whether the base was capable of carrying out missions on a large scale. The list of 50 superpowers was determined after many considerations, and it was very specific to that mouse. Everyone started to take action, and after walking for more than an hour, 3 survivors were injured or killed due to various reasons. One was so hungry that when he saw the mushrooms that were common in the past, he couldn't help but pick 2 and eat them, then died on the spot. A man was bitten by an unknown insect, and his entire thigh became red, swollen and black. Another person was scratched by a bamboo leaf, leaving a deep gash, and even the bones were clearly visible. Such a serious injury may not be cured in peaceful times, let alone now. Duanzhen just checked the 3 of them and ordered coldly, "Kill them all. They won't survive." Suddenly, there was a commotion among the survivors. They were angry but had no choice. People with superpowers are too terrifying and cannot be dealt with by ordinary people, especially Duanzhen. Some people have seen him take action and are well aware of his invincible posture, and they even remember it freshly. Duanzhen said coldly, "What to do? Do you want to rebel? It is your honor to dedicate yourself to the base. If you die to save Akata Guo, your death will be your greatest luck." The survivors were all very angry, but there was nothing they could do. After resting for a few minutes, the superpowers stood up one after another and urged forward, "Quick! Let's go! Don't let that kid run away." Confidence is high among all equals. Before taking action, Duanzhen had already made a detailed plan how to detect in advance, how to block space, and how to face the enemy head-on. In short, the plan is very detailed, and even a variety of plans have been made. Jiang Fan is dead. The team was soon in action again. Zhang Zilin sat in the dark confinement room, practicing breathing techniques. After practicing for a while, she opened her eyes. Upset, Duanzhen and the others have set off. "Right. Are you going to deal with Jiang Fan? Will Jiang Fan be in danger?" She couldn't help but worry about Jiang Fan. Chapter 119 Base Riot. Zhang Zilin didn't know how she felt about Jiang Fan. This man took his body violently and despicably. Logically speaking, they should be killed quickly. However, Jiang Fan did not hurt her more, nor did he force her to do anything. Before leaving, he even gave her a precious superpower fruit. This made Zhang Zilin's hostility disappear a lot. As for Jiang Fan robbing women, to be honest, Zhang Zilin has seen too many in the apocalypse. As long as the leader of every survivor settlement is a man, he will do this. In comparison, Jiang Fan treats his woman very well, the best among all the people she has ever met. From this point of view, Jiang Fan is not a bad person, he is just a little indulgent. In fact, he is not bad, and he is quite handsome. Wrong. What am I thinking about? Zhang Zilin quickly interrupted her thoughts. In short, Jiang Fan is in big trouble this time. According to the information she heard, Duanzhen's nose has incredible powers. He can even smell the faint smell left more than 10 days ago and can smell the smell several kilometers away. He targeted Jiang Fan, and Jiang Fan could hardly escape unless he ran far away. However, the world will eventually be controlled by the official and military again. Jiang Fan has a murder record in the military. He can escape for a while, but he cannot escape for a lifetime. While she was struggling, chaos suddenly broke out outside the confinement room. A shrill alarm sounded. The guards screamed in horror. The grey trash have rebelled. Get the gun. Get the gun. Help. They are rushing in. Help. My leg is broken. Be careful. There is a superpower hidden among them. Shan Yu quietly reviewed official documents and formulated the development plan for the next stage of the base. The earth-burrowing superpower suddenly kidnapped Guo Changting, forcing him to make a new plan. If Guo Changting dies, the progress of artificially breeding superpower fruits will be greatly delayed. In this case, if you want to accumulate enough superpowers, you have to go outside to collect superpower fruits and superpowers. If Duanzhen's mission is carried out smoothly, it will prove that the base has the ability to go out on a large scale. and the scope of collecting supplies can be slightly expanded in the future. It is true that this mission will definitely cause a large number of survivor casualties. But that is only a necessary loss as long as survivors are replenished in time. It will not have much substantial impact on the base according to previous estimates by the Longuo Academy of Sciences. The urban population of Longuo will decrease by 90% within 1 month of the arrival of the red mist. If calculated this way, there are approximately 2 to 3 million survivors in Mohe City. Among these people, there are at least tens of thousands of people with superpowers. There must also be a large number of undiscovered supernatural fruits distributed in Demon Sea City. As long as I can keep these superpowers and superpower fruits in my pocket, I won't be afraid of Yang Shao's. You can even take the opportunity to swallow up his team and continue to increase your strength. Jie Shanyu squinted his eyes and thought. The captain of the personal guard said worriedly, "Director, I feel that the situation of the workers above is a bit unstable. We have deployed a large number of soldiers and superpowers, and they may take the opportunity to cause trouble." No. Jie Shanyu was very calm this time. Duan Zhen went out and mobilized 50 superpowers and 200 elite soldiers at once, which placed a huge burden on the manpower of the base. At the same time, Jie Shanyu was also worried that the underground man would run to the base and behead him, which would be great fun. Although his office is protected by dozens of soldiers with live ammunition and several supernatural beings all year round, Jie Shanyu does not believe that the other party can kill him. But as long as he hurts a finger, it will be a huge blow to his prestige. Based on various considerations, Jie Shanyu mobilized most of his trusted personnel to protect himself and deliberately relaxed his supervision of the gray-clothed survivors in this way. Ambitious people will definitely seize this opportunity, Jie Shanyu said calmly. If you don't give them a chance, how can they show up? How can I know which workers are the thorns? Anyway, the superpowers and most of the soldiers are here. The cows and horses in gray clothes are making trouble. Just suppress them. As for how many people would die, Jie Shanyu didn't care at all. Those nonsense words before were purely for that stupid woman Zhang Zilin. In fact, Jie Shanyu had already discovered the anger of the gray-clothed class. They eat poorly, work too much, and their lives have plummeted compared to before. It is normal to complain. The solution prepared by Jie Shanyu is also very simple. Create a class of black-clad criminals that is lower than the gray-clad working class. The food is worse, the work is more dangerous, and the treatment is worse. When the gray-clothed class finds out that someone lives worse than themselves, they will naturally have psychological comfort and a way to vent their grievances. This is human nature. Therefore, if someone really dares to cause trouble, Jie Shanyu can take the opportunity to label some people as criminals in black, which can not only alleviate internal conflicts, but also provide cannon fodder for the next time he goes out to explore. Jie Shanyu knew that among officers and people with special abilities, there were actually a group of people who did not support the way he treated survivors. It's just not as extreme as Zhang Zilin. He also wanted to take this opportunity to show these people the consequences of disobeying his orders. Kill 3 birds with 1 stone. Anyway, as long as you control the violent weapons, the overall situation is under control. Jie Shanyu calculated silently. Just then, an officer rushed in a panic. "Director Jack, there's chaos up there. Those bastards in gray are rebelling." Jie Shanyu immediately stood up and said with a ferocious smile, "It's just as I expected. Notify everyone immediately to strengthen the defense at key locations. Let them make trouble for a while, and we will take action later." Everyone was shocked, knowing that Jie Shanyu was about to go on a killing spree. The confinement area is clearly not a critical location except for Zhang Zilin. All the prisoners in here are the survivors in gray who were punished. Zhang Zilin listened to the movement outside with a solemn expression. "What's going on? There's a riot." After a while, there was a strong explosion outside, and then crackling gunshots. The sound of gunshots became farther and farther away, and finally disappeared. This time there was trouble. Zhang Zilin became deeply worried. A group of rioters stormed the prison complex brandishing a variety of homemade weapons. The few guards did not dare to resist, so they turned around and ran away. The rioters opened the prison doors one by one, released the prisoners inside, and then distributed weapons, becoming new rebels. "There is a solitary room here. Is there a key? No? Break it open." Boom, boom. Several rioters used tools to break open the door of the solitary room. Zhang Zilin slowly stood up and said sincerely, "I advise you to surrender. If you don't have enough guns and ammunition, and you don't have enough superpowers, you can't win. I know your anger, and I can help you plead with Director Jack." However, several dirty rebels didn't listen to what she was saying, and their eyes gleamed with excitement when they saw it was a female officer. "She's Actually a beautiful female officer. Why? Is she locked up here? Who the hell knows? I only know that we are getting a big deal. I'll do this first. I'll leave the rest to you. There are several young nurses at the military doctor's side who are all very beautiful. Ho ha. Several people closed the door with ill intentions, walked towards Zhang Zilin with their weapons in hand. Zhang Zilin frowned and took a step back. I advise you to calm down. A tall man rushed over with open arms and said with an evil smile, "Beauty, please let me have a taste so you don't suffer," snapped, seeking death. Zhang Zilin's eyes turned cold, her body rushed forward, and she slapped the man's chin with a lightning-like palm. Chapter 120 Jiang Fan takes action. Sneak attack. Click. The man's trigeminal nerve was severely hit and he fell into coma on the spot. FK. Kill her. Another man roared, waving an iron wrench, looking for death. Zhang Zilin snorted coldly. Instead of retreating, she advanced forward, rushed into the man's arms, and then hit him hard. Boom. The man screamed and flew backwards, hitting the wall hard and falling unconscious. Only then did the others realize something was wrong, and turned around to run away, but were horrified to find that the cell door had just been locked by themselves and could not be opened from the inside. Beauty, spare your life, sister, I was just joking. Zhang Zilin made a few precise strikes with a cold face, knocking out several people. She acted very measuredly. These people were just unconscious. Zhang Zilin pulled the door, but it was locked from time to time. There were sounds of killing outside. Should I still be confined here? Zhang Zilin was a little hesitant. Jiang Fan was surprised to find that a riot broke out at the TV station base. The gray-clothed cows and horses have completely controlled the upper levels and are venting their anger, killing, eating, robbing. There were wailings everywhere. The original rulers, soldiers and superpowers all retreated to the middle and lower levels. A large number of soldiers and supernatural beings blocked the middle floor to prevent the rioters from coming down. The base leader Jia Shanai was surrounded by only 4 psychics and 10 soldiers for protection. This is a great opportunity. Jiang Fan opened the portal in Jia Shanai's room without saying a word and teleported in directly. The location where he appeared happened to be on the sofa behind Jia Shanai. Jia Shanai didn't notice Jiang Fan, and even took the internal phone to issue orders with an extremely cold voice. It's almost done. Close the internet cafe. Kill all those who resist. Yes, Jia Shanai put down the phone, feeling the pleasure of controlling other people's destiny with one order. Hundreds of people died. Power is the most powerful drug for men. This is power. He sighed, lying comfortably on the swivel chair and spinning around. Jia Shanai was horrified to find that someone was sitting behind him at some point. Who are you? Jiang Fan said with a smile. You guess. Jia Shanai was speechless, and then he reacted. You're the one who drilled the hole. As he spoke, he secretly sent out an invisible will attack, piercing Jiang Fan like a steel needle. As everyone knows, Jiang Fan completely sees it. The moment Jiang Fan appeared, he opened all the abilities he could: perception, disappear, ki and blood burst by 200%. Light of the soul. Jiang Fan saw a translucent spike piercing his will bubble. Then, Jiang Fan only felt a slight shock, and the spike shattered. Inner light's will attack immunity takes effect. Jia Shanai was stunned for a moment. Why didn't he respond? Jiang Fan smiled brightly and said, okay, it's my turn. Mental shock. Jia Shanai felt as if his brain had been hit by a truck with a bang. His consciousness instantly fell into darkness, his orifices were bleeding, and his body collapsed softly. A ball of silver light that only Jiang Fan could see flew out of Jia Shanai's body and fell into Jiang Fan's will weapon. The weapon of will has solidified visibly to the naked eye. It really works. Jiang Fan smiled and started searching the room. Jia Shanai was an important figure and should know a lot of information soon. Jiang Fan found Jia Shanai's mobile phone and tried it with his fingerprint unlocked successfully. Jiang Fan threw Jia Shanai's body and his mobile phone into the portable space, preparing to go back and take a look. The work computer used by Jia Shanai was also taken away. The locked file cabinet by the wall was suddenly opened, and all the files were taken away. Jiang Fan scanned it with his senses and found that there was a small hidden drawer under Jia Shanai's bed, with a USB flash drive inside. What information is there that is so valuable? Jiang Fan also put it away after finishing his work. He sank into the ground and came from the underground to the outside under the guard lounge. Jiang Fan didn't show his head and just threw a grenade from the ground. The guards looked at the grenade that suddenly appeared on the ground in confusion. What the hell? FK. FK. Boom. Everyone died tragically on the spot. Two groups of silver light also flew out of the bodies of the two superpowers and disappeared into the weapons of will, but it's far less effective than Jiang Fan's light group. Could it be that the dead with high willpower can provide better results? Jiang Fan secretly guessed. What happened? Someone is coming in. Several guards and superpowers outside rushed in panic. Another grenade was thrown from the wall. Where did the grenade come from? Get out of the way. Several people screamed and fell down on the spot, but it was too late. Boom. Except for one superpower, everyone died tragically. A huge iron shield appeared in front of this superpower, and he withstood the grenade explosion, but he didn't feel well either. His head was buzzing, and he was completely stunned. Jiang Fan jumped out of the wall like lightning and smashed it with a hammer. The man with the iron shield had no time to react and could only block with his iron shield. Clang. After a heavy crash, the iron shield became extremely heavy. Iron Shield was shocked to find that he could no longer lift the iron shield. Boom. The iron shield fell heavily to the ground, breaking the superpower's instep. He screamed, "Stop fighting, I surrender." Okay. Jiang Fan struck with a sweeping blow hit the temple of the person with superpowers. Boom. The superhuman's head exploded like a watermelon. A ball of silver light flew out and disappeared into the weapon of will. Jiang Fan's eyes narrowed. Continue. He sank into the ground again and approached a large army of superpowers in the middle level. At this time, the superpowers had dispersed and led soldiers to clean up the rebels. Everyone surrenders. Raise your hands, or you will be shot on the spot. Bang! Bang bang! Accompanied by gunshots and shouts, they mercilessly slaughtered the rebels. Ordinary survivors could not stop the team composed of guns and supernatural powers. They suffered heavy casualties in an instant, and there were corpses, mutilated limbs, and blood everywhere. Some people knelt down and begged for mercy. Some people turned around and ran away. The superpowers and soldiers then divided their hands to capture the prisoners. However, some prisoners pretended to surrender, but in fact they wanted to take the opportunity to get close to the soldiers and attack them. Maid, how dare you fight back? Kill him. Kill him. Boom. Seeing this scene, the survivors ran faster. Brothers, they are killing prisoners. Run away. Some survivors who had already knelt down quickly got up and fled to other places without their lives. The scene was chaotic. The soldiers here were originally the garrison troops of the base. They had almost no actual combat experience and did not know how to deal with the situation in front of them. Coupled with the red mist blocking the view and the long tunnel, no one knew how far the battlefield stretched. Behind the chaotic battlefield, Jiang Fan appeared silently and started a silent killing of the superpowers. If you are alone, use a mental attack to paralyze the opponent, and then kill him instantly. If there are several people, just throw grenades. After he killed more than 20 people with special abilities in a row, someone finally discovered the abnormality. There's a sneak attack from someone with superpowers from behind. Everyone, be careful. The gray clothes also have superpowers. The frightened superpowers gathered quickly, and a group of soldiers followed to protect them. Jiang Fan was reluctant to take action when he saw this. He couldn't figure out what everyone's abilities were, and if he confronted them head-on, he might end up capsizing in the gutter. Especially after the Class A superpower named Jiang arrived, Jiang Fan immediately decided to leave. Jiang is one of the few powerful people who Li Qingyu explicitly reminded he has strong melee combat ability, and being entangled with him may cause danger. In order to avoid unnecessary risks, Jiang Fan slowly sank into the ground and left. Zhang Zilin sat in the solitary room for another half hour. The base still didn't seem to control the situation, and no one came to find her. Hearing the shouts of death outside getting smaller and smaller, Zhang Zilin couldn't sit still any longer. She held her hand on the door, and all her strength exploded in an instant. Boom! The door lock was abruptly broken. Zhang Zilin walked out. Chapter 121. Is it Jiang Fan? Impossible. Zhang Zilin saw a scene she would never forget. There were corpses everywhere he went. Almost all of the female corpses had been violated and abused before death. There are not only female soldiers, but also a small number of female survivors in gray clothes. When order is completely out of control, women are often the victims. Zhang Zilin's face was ashen. Why is this happening? I understand that survivors are oppressed and have resentment in their hearts. Then you can just retaliate against the leadership of the base. Why do you want to retaliate against these ordinary female soldiers? Is this how you use violence after you have mastered it? Zhang Ling, a female superpower, walked out of the red mist. When she saw a figure in front of her, she was so frightened that she raised her gun. Who is it? Raise your hands, Zhang Zilin said softly. Don't be nervous, it's me, Zhang Zilin. As soon as Zhang Ling saw Zhang Zilin, her heart dropped and she burst into tears. Major General Zhang, please save us. Those workers in gray are crazy and kill everyone on sight. Zhang Ling's ability is auxiliary and has no combat effectiveness at all. If not for his luck, he would have been dragged away by the rioters just now. Zhang Zilin patted her shoulder comfortingly. Follow me, it'll be okay. Zhang Ling felt a little relieved after the two women had walked a few steps. They saw a dozen fleeing rioters. They were chased in a panic, and they didn't know how they ended up here. As soon as the rioters saw the two female soldiers, they couldn't wait to say, "There are soldiers, kill them. Kill them, kill. You, run away." Zhang Ling was so frightened that she shrank behind Zhang Zilin. Zhang Zilin said loudly, "You surrender, I will protect you from death." Everyone didn't believe it at all and just shouted, "Maid, that girl is pretty good, don't waste it, let me have fun first." "FK. You're crazy. There's someone chasing us from behind." Duh. Since I can't escape anyway, I will definitely die. I want to feel good before I die." Zhang Zilin couldn't bear it. "That's enough. Now, lay down your weapons and surrender." As a result, the riders rushed forward very simply. "These girls are pretty hot, let's go together." Zhang Zilin had no choice but to take action. Half a minute later, everyone was knocked unconscious. Zhang Zilin found some rope, tied them nearby, and then continued walking forward. She walked and fought all the way. "Sometimes when I encounter soldiers and people with powers in the base, I take them under my command. If you encounter rioters, tie them up and deal with them later." Finally, she came to the main battlefield of both sides. The battle has begun to wrap up after Jiang Fan left, under the leadership of Jiang. The rioters finally failed and completely collapsed. A group of rioters forced open the base gate and escaped outside. Most of the people were stuck in the base. Everyone is busy cleaning the battlefield and hunting down the remaining people. We also need to count the losses, contact Duanzhen in front, and prepare for follow-up processing. The most troublesome thing is that Jie Shanai was missing. There was no one in charge of the overall situation. As the highest-ranking officer and the most powerful person on the scene, Jia Mengxuan could only assume the responsibility. Jia Mengxuan was so busy that he was sweating profusely, and he was relieved when he saw Zhang Zilin. "Great, I was worried that you would die in the rebellion." The superpowers were also very happy to see Zhang Zilin. "We have another powerful fighting force on our side, and the situation has finally stabilized." Zhang Zilin frowned. "Where are the other superpowers? How come there are only so many?" The scene was quiet for a while. Jia Mengxuan said with a bitter face, "Here, there are corpses over there, 27 dead in total." Zhang Zilin was shocked. "How many?" "The riders didn't have enough guns and ammunition, so how did they kill so many superpowers?" Jia Mengxuan said angrily, "We were sneak attacked by a mysterious superpower. It's most likely the same rat that knew how to drill holes." Jiang Fan. Zhang Zilin frowned and looked at the bodies. Some of the corpses were too horrific to look at, with some parts of their bodies blown apart and in pieces, like broken ragdolls. Zhang Zilin felt that it was not Jiang Fan who did it. She knew Jiang Fan's strength very well, definitely not that strong. At least, he couldn't beat himself head-on, and the appearance of these corpses made it impossible for him to do it. Even with all his strength, it was impossible for Jiang Fan to become so strong in a short period of time. But from other people's descriptions, it seems that this mysterious superpower also has the ability to walk through walls and burrow into the ground, so that he can move freely on the battlefield. But this is not ironclad evidence. Superpower fruits are not an isolated case. Some powers will appear in multiple powers at the same time. Maybe other people also have the ability to penetrate through walls and into the ground. This sounds like a coincidence, but it's actually not a coincidence at all. Without this ability, that person would not be able to enter the base quietly. All the superpowers who can come here have actually been screened by the base's peripheral defense, and must have some similar sneaking ability. At this time, a communications soldier trotted over. "Report, Major General Duanzhen sent back a message. Major General Jia can decide on his own regarding the base. I just found traces of rats and will soon start arresting them." Rat is the code name given by the base to those with earth-burrowing abilities. When Jia Mengxuan heard this, he was disappointed and said, "It's really not that guy." The TV station base is at least 5 kilometers away from the location where the telegram was sent. There is no way that person could run that far in a short period of time. Then there is indeed someone else. Zhang Zilin began to worry about Jiang Fan again. In the dense forest, after more than 2 hours of desperate marching, 19 more survivors fell down due to various reasons. This time, just like before, Duanzhen simply abandoned them and left them to fend for themselves in the dense forest. Jiang Bangsha, a military doctor with special powers who set off with the army, couldn't bear it anymore. "Major General Duan, how about I help them take a look?" Duan Zhen said coldly. No, your physical strength is limited, and the injuries you can treat are limited. You must use it to save our own people. This group of people is not worthy of consuming your physical strength, Jiang. Bangsha was very disappointed, but she didn't dare to resist when the injured heard this. They immediately fell into despair and anger. Chapter 122 The base will not forget her contribution. The atmosphere in the team was starting to go wrong. The survivors looked at each other with anger hidden in their eyes. Duanzhen said nothing coldly, but urged the team to move forward quickly. 10 male survivors were at the front holding axes and machetes to clear the way. A new group of people is changed every 15 minutes. This job is extremely physically demanding and very dangerous. Various mutant animals are hidden in the dense woods and shrubs. Once frightened, it is easy to attack the pathbreakers. Today's animals are almost not easy to mess with. There are ants as big as a palm, rats weighing more than 10 kilograms, terrifying giant mantises, big flies that dare to bite people, and giant snakes as thick as a bucket. Fortunately, there are fewer and fewer mosquitoes. I don't know whether it's because the mutation rate of mosquitoes is very low, or because the natural enemies of mosquitoes are too powerful. Otherwise life would be worse than death. The long team shuttled through the dense forest, and people screamed from time to time. Bitten by rats, stung by poisonous caterpillars, cut by mutated plants. Several military doctors were busy recording the injuries, what was attacked, the extent of the injuries, and the subsequent reactions. If you are a person with powers or a soldier, you will be treated. If he is a survivor, he has to bear it himself. In the corner of the base, Jiang Fan stood in front of a superhuman with a dagger. The superpower was tied up all over and was so frightened that he cried bitterly. Brother, spare me. I won't say anything, Jiang Fan said calmly. Tell me your plan to capture me. I don't know this. I'm just a useless superpower. I'm not taken seriously at all. They won't tell me anything. Whoosh, the sword flash. A finger fell to the ground. I say. Major General Duanzhen led the team, and Major General Sun Wei also went. There are more than 50 superpowers in total, 200 soldiers, and 1,000 ordinary people carrying supplies. Anything else? No, that's all I know. Brother, please. Don't fight. Don't fight. That's right, I remembered. They think you are at the Pearl of the Demonic CTV Tower and are worried about you. Run away and rush over. I think we should go in a straight line. I told you everything I know. Really, PFFT. The superpower fell to the ground with eyes wide open. Jiang Fan sank into the ground and chased in the direction of Duanzhen. Jiang Bangsha squatted in front of a female survivor who had just died. The woman was bitten by a red poisonous ant, and the wound was as tragic as a burning burn. She wailed for 2 hours without receiving any treatment, and eventually the wound suppurated and she died. Duanzhen came over. Dead? How long did you last, Jiang? Bangsha looked ugly and said, 2 hours and 15 minutes, Duanzhen took a look at her record and nodded with satisfaction. Don't forget to summarize and sort it out later. The injuries sustained by these survivors can provide intelligence for future outings, including the evolution speed of the injury and the outcome of the untreated state are all important information. Jiang Bangsha couldn't help but ask, Major General Duan, why don't you let me treat her? The other military doctors glanced at her and remained silent, each busy with their own work. Duanzhen glanced at this beautiful girl and wanted to scold her severely, but thinking that her ability was very special, he could only endure it and said, can you cure it, Ginger? Penelia stagnated. How could she possibly be cured of a poison that could kill someone within 2 hours? Even if it can't be cured, at least I should get a painkiller injection. Painkiller injection? Does it make sense for a person who is bound to die? Duanzhen sneered, and then said coldly, Jiang Bangsha, don't do meaningless things. Resources are limited, and we must invest them in more valuable and rewarding things. The distribution of your physical strength is like this. And the distribution of painkillers is also like this. This woman's. She gave us valuable information about red ant toxins, and the base will never forget her contribution. Just stop thinking about it, Duanzhen turned and left. Jiang Bangsha bit her red lips and remained silent for a long time. Will the base forget her contribution? With such a light sentence, a life was lost. She thought sadly, what if I get seriously injured one day? Send someone to observe indifferently, record the entire process, never intervene in the treatment, and let me die in despair. Jiang Fan remained in the virtual state and ran in a straight line in the dense forest. Wherever they passed, the mutated animals launched attacks one after another, but in vain. This makes their little minds confused as to what is going on. Soon Jiang Fan rushed out of their sight. For ordinary people and most people with special abilities, Jiang Fan, who is in the extremely dangerous dense forest, is like walking on plain ground. Jiang Fan let go of his senses while running, making sure that there were no overly powerful mutated animals and plants around him in perception. The entire dense forest was flashing with dazzling red light. There are ferocious animals and plants everywhere along the way. Jiang Fan deeply felt the tremendous changes in the world. Almost all the animals and plants that can be seen today are mutated in the fierce competition for survival. Ordinary animals and plants have basically become extinct. In addition, some plants also gained certain perception and movement abilities, and actively launched attacks on Jiang Fan. It hasn't been like this the few times I've gone out before. The world's flora and fauna are still evolving rapidly. No one knows what it will end up like. Jiang Fan couldn't help but think of the countless tentacle monsters that had landed. They were killing crazily in corners they couldn't see and quickly adapted to life on land. The tentacle monsters are just the first animals to land. There are countless animals in the water. Who knows what state they have evolved to? Thinking again of the terrifying sea snake that reached all over the world, Jiang Fan felt unspeakable depression in his heart. Suddenly, a familiar figure entered the edge of Jiang Fan's perception. It's that Batman. Batman transforms into a bat and hangs upside down on a tree branch. Next to him there was another short psychic, squatting on the same branch and saying something. Jiang Fan stopped two people. Jiang Fan gently took out a pistol. Gravity twist. He floated up silently, and under the cover of the red mist, slowly floated towards the two of them, keeping his pistol pointed at the short superpower. When Jiang Fan was about 15 meters away from the two of them, the short psychic suddenly looked in Jiang Fan's direction and seemed to have discovered something. Jiang Fan shot without saying a word. Boom! The short superpower was shot in the forehead and fell down the tree with eyes wide open. A ball of silver light that only Jiang Fan could see flew towards him and disappeared into the weapon of will. Batman was stunned for a moment, then reacted immediately and shouted in horror, "Here comes the rat! The rat is here with me!" He flapped his wings and wanted to fly away, but it was too late. Jiang Fan was very unhappy. "Call me a mouse." He stomped on the tree trunk next to him, and his almost weightless body rushed towards the Batman. At the same time, the energy in the body exploded, and the ghost maneuver started. In almost a blink of an eye, Jiang Fan spanned more than 10 meters and suddenly appeared in front of the Batman. Batman couldn't react at all and bumped into him. Die! Jiang Fan punched out. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 123: Lure the tiger and drive away the wolf. Boom! The big bat's body was hit on the spot, and organ fragments were sprayed out from behind. Batman couldn't maintain his bat form, so his body changed back to human form, but he died after changing. Half of his body shape change also stopped. Finally, a half-human, half-bat body fell down. A ball of silver light flew into Jiang Fan's chest. The weapon of will quickly condenses the chain. Very good. Jiang Fan raised his lips slightly. There is no trace of the enemy within the sensing range. It means that these two people are just out for reconnaissance. The enemy is still far away and it is relatively safe here. At this time, click, the sky suddenly brightened. A dazzling bolt of lightning fell from the sky and struck. Jiang Fan can actually attack beyond visual range. Jiang Fan was startled and activated the virtualization at the critical moment. Lightning as thick as a bucket passed through Jiang Fan's body and struck the tree, causing a huge explosion. Boom! The big tree that several people hugged split open on this spot, like a split bamboo. Poof! Jiang Fan felt pain in his chest and a mouthful of blood spurted out. The virtual state is not completely immune to lightning attacks. This was beyond his expectation at this time. Dense bullets shot out from the red mist and head in this direction. FK. Jiang Fan quickly jumped down from the tree and landed on the ground. An accident occurred again, and the ground suddenly rose. A giant hand made of soil and rocks suddenly stretched out from the soil and grabbed Jiang Fan fiercely. Jiang Fan was very calm. Since you can be attacked in trees, you can also be attacked on the ground. He is ready. 500% energy and blood burst. Ghostly maneuver. Jiang Fan's body moved more than 10 meters in an instant. Boom! The giant hand that was 4 to 5 meters tall missed the opportunity and then struck Jiang Fan head-on and face-to-face. Jiang Fan moved at high speed again to avoid the attack. The giant hand smacked the air and smashed a large area of plants. At this time, the giant hand could no longer attack Jiang Fan. Only then did Jiang Fan realize that the root of the giant hand was stuck in the soil and could not move, and could only attack a small range. When the giant hand's superpower found that he could not attack Jiang Fan, the giant clay hand disintegrated immediately afterwards. Another bullet was fired from the dense forest, hitting the trees and causing sawdust to fly everywhere. Jiang Fan entered the virtual state again to avoid bullets. He frowned slightly. Why can't you seem to see me? It doesn't matter if a person with lightning powers can see me with his powers, but a person with giant hands can also see me. What a coincidence. And the bullet just now, does the person who fired it have superpowers? Impossible. There should be someone with superpowers watching me nearby. Jiang Fan immediately checked the creature he was sensing in the huge explosion. All the animals were frightened and flew around, and red light was everywhere. However, a dozen meters away from him, there was a strange bug as big as a finger, hanging in the air, motionless. Jiang Fan glanced at it without any trace. The color of the insect's body surface keeps changing, almost blending into the background, making it impossible to see clearly under the observation of the light of the soul. The insect's body shows two superpowers. Jiang Fan ran a few tentative steps, but the bug still followed him, neither far nor close, keeping a distance of about 10 meters. Sure enough, it's you. Jiang Fan narrowed his eyes. Li Qinggai, you didn't mention this insect with superpowers, but it seemed that he was also a lib. No, can't be too hard. Jiang Fan immediately changed his plan. This group of people has too many superpowers and is full of strange things. Even before he got close, he suffered setbacks one after another. Once you get close, you don't know what your abilities are, and it's easy to capsize if you can't work hard. You have to find another way. At this time, three figures rushed into Jiang Fan's range of perception. A man's body was covered in flames, and wherever he went, fire broke out in the dense forest. The light on a person's body flashes and extinguishes, which is very strange. The body of the last person doubled in width and became almost square as he ran. He picked up a big tree from the side and threw it from a distance like a giant javelin. Unfortunately, it was not very accurate and hit Jiang Fan more than 10 meters away. Jiang Fan sneered, turned around and ran away. The insect in the air followed quickly. Jiang Fan jumped over a puddle of water, and a green-haired crab as big as a basin suddenly jumped out of the water, its claws clawing at Jiang Fan. Jiang Fan ran over without changing his expression, without moving, and let the green-haired crab pinch his thigh. The big claw of the green-haired crab passed through the thigh and caught a gap. It was stunned for a while and then retracted into the pool. Jiang Fan deliberately did not sink into the ground, but ran on the ground, running straight towards the Third People's Hospital. Aren't you awesome? How about a chance encounter with those tentacle monsters? Duanzhen and others quickly caught up to the location where the lightning struck. One person said unhappily, "This mouse is quite resistant, and it can actually withstand one of my divine punishments. It's okay." He was injured and vomited blood. He couldn't run far. Duanzhen stood beside a pool of blood and carefully memorized the smell of blood. Li Qinggai, the flying insect superpower, was still following Jiang Fan, while sharing his vision with the large troops at the rear. Duanzhen saw clearly the mouse was still escaping quickly. Li Qinggai is still following the mouse. Let's chase him. Everyone chased him out again. The superhuman with an unusually wide body took the lead and soon reached the location of Jishutan. The green-haired crab sprang out again and clamped directly on the calf of the superpower. Clang. It actually made the sound of metal intersecting. FK. The superpower was startled when he saw it was a green-haired crab. He grabbed its big claw with both hands angrily and exerted force. Click. The big turtle was broken abruptly. The superpower grabbed the tip of the turtle and thrust it hard into the crab's back, nailing it to the ground. The superpower breathed a sigh of relief, released the transformation state, and breathed heavily. Maintaining the state consumes too much energy. Soon, the first group of fast-running superpowers arrived. Old Joe, why don't you run away? I'm so exhausted. That mouse can run faster than a dog. It's over. I've alarmed him this time. If he gets into the ground, it will be difficult to catch him again. Duanzhen also came to the water pool, took a look at the green-haired crab, and said with concern, "Old Joe, are you not injured?" Lao Joe grinned, "This thing can't hurt me yet." Duanzhen looked at everyone. Many of them were very tired and could only say helplessly, "Everyone rest on the spot and wait for the people behind you." His face didn't look good. His original plan was to march quickly to the Pearl of the Demonic Sea, launch a sneak attack overnight, and catch the mouse by surprise. As a result, he was discovered halfway. The only good thing is that the other party did not sneak into the ground. Why doesn't he go underground? Someone asked curiously. Duanzhen thought for a while and said, "Nothing but two reasons. Either there is some kind of restriction on his ability to penetrate the earth, and he cannot activate it at will. Either." Duanzhen sneered, "Trying to lure us into a trap. Like a powerful mutant animal." Everyone burst into laughter. "It certainly can't be the second reason. It's Probably due to capacity limitations, but I still hope he'll be waiting for us next to the trap. Ha ha ha, no. Amount of mutated animals can stop 50 of us. The dead rat drove me to the woods. When I catch him, I must give him a good beating. After a short rest for a few minutes, Duanzhen left 2 men behind to support the large force behind him, and continued the pursuit with the remaining men. Chapter 124 Space Blockade. Huh? Not locked? Jiang Fan controlled the speed slowly. With his physical strength, he would not be tired even if he ran for a day and a night. However, he can't run too fast. What if the enemy gives up? He saw the tracking flying insect getting further and further away, and knew that the opponent's physical strength could not keep up, so he stopped. He pretended to breathe heavily. Feeling very disdainful, I pretended to cough for a while, dug into my backpack, and actually took out the food from my carry-on space and started eating it. Li Qingqing finally breathed a sigh of relief when he saw the mouse finally stopped. She fell on a treetop, panting in pain, her lungs almost coming out. This guy can really run away. She didn't bring any food with her, so she could only hide miserably on the treetops and watch Jiang Fan feast. Jiang Fan also secretly sensed the other party no food. You can't do it without something to eat. How can you follow me if you don't have the energy? Jiang Fan deliberately took a few bites and threw away the food, muttering to himself, "It tastes really bad." There was also a bottle of purified water, but I drank half of it and threw it aside. A hole. Such a waste. Li Qingqing's mouth went dry. She didn't have anything to eat or drink, but the other party was picky. Jiang Fan rested for a few minutes, then got up and left. Li Qingqing complained secretly, but he still ran over quickly, picked up the food and water thrown by Jiang Fan and quickly swallowed it before turning into a flying insect and continuing to follow. Escape and pursuit lasted for several hours. Li Qingqing was already beyond love. The distance I flew this day was greater than ever since the red mist came. She was so tired that her face turned pale and she was almost vomiting blood. The sky grew dark. Li Qingqing couldn't bear it anymore, so he found an abandoned building and stopped there to wait for the large army. After waiting for a full hour, Duanzhen and others arrived. There was something wrong with their expressions, and they all ran away as if their mothers were dead. Even a soldier with good physical fitness like Duanzhen was running crazy. Who the hell can stand running in the jungle for hours? Also be on guard against possible attacks at all times. They hurriedly ran all the way, and 3 superpowers were attacked and injured by mutated animals. One of them was seriously injured and might not be able to survive. Duanzhen's face looked ugly, and he couldn't hold on no matter how much he wanted to chase. If you run again, the superpowers will riot. When he saw that Li Qingqing couldn't hold on, Duanzhen could only say, "Everyone, take a rest and continue chasing tomorrow." After waiting for several hours, the follow-up troops arrived. Compared with the powerful superpowers who rushed to the front, the people behind are even worse. The number of people with powers was reduced by 10, the number of soldiers was reduced by 30, and the number of survivors was reduced by 200 plus. Some people were injured or exhausted, and eventually couldn't keep up and got lost in the dense forest. Some survivors took advantage of lax management and escaped secretly. Duanzhen looked ugly. Such a huge loss was difficult for him to accept. If you can't catch the mouse again, it will be a complete failure. Fortunately, the base was attacked and Zheshanai disappeared. Otherwise he would not be able to deliver at all, but he also knew that he couldn't chase any more, otherwise the team would be scattered. Everyone, rest. After hearing the order to rest on the spot, everyone suddenly fell to the ground. The exhausted survivors still couldn't rest, so they had to simply clean up the building and let everyone spend the night. Meanwhile, get ready to cook. The military doctors were also busy, checking the bodies of all the superpowers and soldiers and treating their injuries. Duanzhen couldn't take a break and had a meeting with several leaders. Based on the current situation, we have misjudged the ability of mice. First of all, he probably doesn't have the ability to fly. He only has superhuman physical strength so that he can quickly move from one place to another. This guy is really good at running. Secondly, we found the reason why he has so many superpowers. He is born with good physical strength, so he can withstand more superpowers. Also, from Li Qingqing's perspective, he ran for a whole day without being attacked by animals, so he should have some ability to avoid or detect attacks in advance. In the end, his ability to burrow into the ground was very limited so far. He has been unable to burrow into the ground again. I estimate that burrowing into the ground consumes a lot of physical energy. We have been tracking him, which has put tremendous pressure on him, and he has been unable to recover his physical strength. So, in order to prevent him from recovering his strength and drilling underground, we can't rest for too long. I ordered everyone to divide into 2 teams. and all the superpowers with strong combat ability and the 30 soldiers with the best physical strength to form one team. We hunted the mice all night. The others were organized into the second team, led by Lieutenant Colonel Wang, and moved forward steadily without losing too many men. The mouse can't hold on for long. We can catch up tomorrow. After a brief arrangement, Duanzhen rested for an hour and then set off again with his people. Li Qingqing was already exhausted and needed to rest for a while. Duanzhen could only follow with his nose first. However, this way, the tracking was not as accurate as Li Qingqing's, and it took many detours. Fortunately, the mouse never sank into the ground. It was not until 4 o'clock in the morning that Li Qingqing took a good rest and chased after him under the protection of several soldiers. At 7 o'clock in the morning, Li Qingqing finally found traces of the enemy again. The mouse sat slumped under a big tree next to a building. It seemed that he was too tired and had fallen asleep. Good chance she did not alert the mouse, but hid in the dark and observed silently, waiting for Duanzhen and others to arrive. The mouse was probably very tired and fell asleep unconsciously. The nearby dense forest is a bit strange. There is no animal at all. However, Li Qingqing didn't take it too seriously. When Duanzhen arrives, Sun Wei seals the space so that the mice can't escape. Li Qingqing's perspective reached Duanzhen and others, and everyone was pleasantly surprised. This dead mouse can't run away anymore. Quick, brothers, work harder. Duanzhen was also overjoyed, but still said cautiously, Major General Sun, when you arrive at a place, seal the space first to prevent him from burrowing into the ground and escaping. Sun Wei nodded. Good. With victory right in front of them, everyone was in high spirits and started to speed up. 10 minutes later, Duanzhen and others quietly came to a distance of dozens of meters away from the mouse. Don't come any closer. Right here. Seal the space. Sun Wei closed his hands in silence. A light blue translucent cube appears. The cube quickly expanded, passing through everyone and buildings. In order to prevent rats from escaping underground, he deliberately controlled the base of the cube to be no more than half a meter underground. Soon, he was exhausted. I blocked off an area of 200 meters for 2 hours. Duanzhen looked at the mouse still sleeping next to the tree, with a sinister smile on his lips. Enough. At this moment, the mouse's body blurred, then turned into bubbles and disappeared into the air. Gone. Everyone was dumbfounded. What the hell? What's going on? What about the grandson? What kind of superpower is this? Isn't the space blocked? How did you escape? Li Qingqing was also stunned. A big living person in front of me just now mysteriously disappeared. No one noticed at all that Jiang Fan had a sneer on his face. 10 meters underground, he touched the sweat on his forehead and created an illusion in Li Qingqing's consciousness, which lasted for more than 10 minutes. The pressure was still quite high, but the harvest is also extremely rich. 25 powerful combatants and 30 elite soldiers are locked in a space blockade. According to Li Qingqing, once this ability is activated, it can never be stopped. Even the users have no choice. These people figured out that they must wait for the space blockade to time out. In other words, this group of people locked themselves in. Moreover, the building next to it is densely packed with tentacle monsters. Chapter 125 Tentacle Monster. Everyone came to the big tree without belief. They did not have Li Qingqing's visual ability, so they could only get a clear view of the tree. When they got 3 or 4 meters closer to it, the mouse is indeed gone. There was no trace of human beings on the ground, and the vegetation was all intact. It should have been an ability like hallucination just now. Everyone panicked. I clearly saw him sleeping here. FK. This is his ability. We have been tricked. Where did the mouse go? How does he know Major General Sun's abilities? There must be a traitor. Why are we locked here? Could it be? Boom. Before he finished speaking, a superhuman stepped on a landmine arranged by Jiang Fan. Fire sprayed out, and the supernatural being died on the spot, and several people around him were seriously injured and fell to the ground. FK. Rats laid mines. Worry. This is worse than Tian. Be careful. Don't go through the open space. There may be landmines. Everyone went to the grass and panicked. The giant hand of earth and stone summoned the giant hand of earth and stone again and slapped it on the ground. Boom. 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 After several landmines were detonated, the surrounding area finally became quiet. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Duanzhen's face turned livid, and he roared to the surroundings, a whole damn rat, come out. I know you are nearby. A silver ball of light that no one could see floated out from the deceased's body, passed through the space blockade, entered the ground, and submerged into Jiang Fan's body. Jiang Fan watched this scene quietly. holding his breath and showing no intention of showing his head. Who knows what other strange powers they have? Maybe they can attack me when they see them. Maybe it can attack beyond the space blockade, like a silver light group. Maybe what I see now is also an illusion. In short, it's okay not to come out. Are you in a hurry? Just hurry up anyway. This is correct. He clearly saw tentacle monsters, large and small, being alerted by the sound of landmines and leaping over from the tree crown after Duanzhen shouted. There was no movement around him, which made him almost crazy with anger. This mouse is so slick. We haven't touched him since he was struck by Gao's punishment, son. Wei frowned and said, I guess he trapped us here because he wanted to sneak attack a large army behind. Duan Zhen's expression suddenly changed. All the combat effective superpowers and the most elite soldiers are here, and the back is very empty. Although there were many people, they were all auxiliary superpowers or ordinary soldiers, especially those hundreds of survivors. If they get into chaos after being attacked, the consequences will be disastrous. Duanzhen was anxious, and just as he was about to speak, a thick tentacle fell from the sky and swept away a supernatural being next to him. The superpower said in fear, help! Help! Before he finished speaking, tentacles shot out from the dense forest. FK. What the hell? There's a monster. Everyone was in a panic, and many people were swept away on the spot. A few who reacted quickly managed to escape a blow, but then more tentacles were shot out from the red mist. Shoot! Quickly! Fight! Quickly, soldiers! Fired bullets into the sky frantically. Psychics with long-range attack capabilities also launch various attacks. Bullet, lightning, acid rain, thorn, sweeping across the area above everyone's heads. Wow! A tentacle carcass the size of a truck fell from the canopy. The weird monster appearance made everyone's scalp numb. However, more tentacles are still shooting out. Everyone had no chance to analyze it all and could only deal with it after several more tentacle monsters died. Duanzhen was the only one left resisting, while everyone screamed and was swept away by the tentacles. A hole! Come out here! Dead rat! Duanzhen's body was covered with the black mist, and with a flash of the axe, he could cut off a tentacle, but resistance is useless. More tentacles roll and Duanzhen waved his axe crazily. Jiang Fan still watched with a faint smile without making any move. This guy is pretty awesome. If the edge of the axe hits a tree, a big hole will explode in the trunk. At the same time, the black mist corroded in, and the tree trunks visibly rotted away. Melee combat is one ability. Black mist should be another ability. He also has two abilities. One is smell, and I don't know what the last one is. Jiang Fan quickly remembered match the abilities of this group of people with the ability light ball seen by the light of the soul. If you see this kind of power again in the future, you can roughly estimate the effect of the opponent's power. Duanzhen couldn't resist it in the end, and his explosive state couldn't last long. After a few minutes, his movements inevitably slowed down. Duanzhen was swept away by a thick tentacle. In horror, he saw an extremely terrifying scene, with dense tentacle monsters squatting above the woods. All the companions who were caught before have been made into strange cocoons, hanging on the branches, emitting a light blue light. Save me. Major General Duan. No. No, help. I don't want to die. Woohoo, Duan Zhen was shocked and angry, and had no choice but to resist. The tentacles are wrapped with great force and are covered with thick mucus, making it almost impossible to move. He could only watch as he was made into a cocoon. Jiang Fan was satisfied. Very good, they were all caught. This is great. There is no danger to you at all. Jiang Fan originally just wanted to lock this group of people here, and then stand underground and watch the show. Unexpectedly, he was locked out. That's fine, I'll go and trouble the people behind. Anyway, according to the habits of tentacle monsters, they will not be killed in a short time. Jiang Fan rose from the ground, maintained his virtual state, and ran towards the rear. After running for more than half an hour, he finally saw the troops in the rear. Something went wrong here too. The survivors rioted. During the break, the superpowers worriedly discussed the riots at the base and the disappearance of Zheshan Yu. After being heard by several survivors, the news quickly spread. Soon all the survivors knew, taking advantage of the absence of Duanzhen and other powerful supernatural beings. The survivors fled in droves. Officers on the scene discovered him and launched a pursuit. Then the survivors discovered that without the cooperation of superpowers, the soldiers were not a big threat because the red mist severely blocked the line of sight, and the soldiers could not see the survivors at all. The power of the guns was greatly reduced, so some brave survivors tried to grab the gun. After grabbing the gun, they shot at the soldiers. After that, things got completely chaotic. When Jiang Fan came over, he saw this mess. There were gunshots everywhere, corpses and howling wounded, and people running away with their heads in their hands. Jiang Fan stood calmly. In the virtual state, the bullets were no threat at all. He's not interested in this group of ordinary people either. He walked around and soon saw, in a hidden corner, a small group of soldiers protecting a group of superpowers and leaving quickly. Found you, Jiang Fan followed. He followed unhurriedly about 10 meters away, withdrew only one hand from the blur, took out his pistol and started shooting. End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.